Chapter 5177. Jihong told Zichen about the secret letter regarding this world. At the same time, Zichen finally knew the real reason why the immortal spell's world could not be opened. He was shocked. He had thought that something had happened in the immortal spell's world, causing the passage to be unable to open. He had not expected it to be sealed by Gushan. In that case, it was understandable why he had seen those broken worlds from the immortal spell's world in the void of the trial realm. They had been destroyed by the battle between the immortals and the immortal spell's world. When Gushan returned from the immortal spell's world, he said he was looking for two people. One was me, mainly in charge of this place. Jihong pointed at his feet and said, "After the first battle, I was seriously injured and had been recuperating. During the second battle, my injuries had not healed, so I did not participate. The main reason was that I did not want to die here, because I still had a mission." Zichen asked. "Who is the second person?" Jihong shook his head. "I'm not sure, but it's very likely that he did not find such a person. However, when Gushan left, he said something." "What?" "When the 10,000 spirits world has accumulated enough strength, there will be a day when someone will lead the world back into the immortal spell's world." Hearing this, Zichen's expression changed again. "In that case, the passage to the immortal spell's world can still be opened? It should be able to open it, but that person is not me." Jihong looked at Zichen. Zichen was startled. "Could it be me?" "Perhaps," Jihong said. "At the very least, you are the one with the greatest hope." Zichen was deep in thought. He naturally did not have the strength, but he thought of the Black Tower and the woman who lived on the 7th level. She was very strong, and Zichen guessed that she had surpassed the 9 forces realm. Could it be that person was her? "The reason why I let you break through quickly was to tell you this secret, and then to remind you that the extra-legal spirit demons are about to appear. They have ancient memories, and are not like these spirit breakers. Once the extra-legal spirit demons descend, they will definitely kill everyone here," Jihong said in a low voice. "After that, they will use this place as a starting point to reopen the path of heaven and attract more extra-legal spirit demons. Then they will enter the 10,000 spirits world and slaughter the living beings there, or enslave them forever." "Then what should we do?" Zichen said. "Are we going to take everyone away?" Before Jihong could respond, he shook his head again. Even if he left this place, what would happen to the myriad spirit world? He couldn't just keep running away. "Can't everyone coexist peacefully?" Zichen continued. "The world is so big, and the land is so vast. Why do we have to fight and kill? You want to live in peace, but they don't agree," Jihong said helplessly. "Only by fighting can we defend this place. Once this place was lost, the myriad spirit realm would be in danger. However, it will still take some time for them to arrive here. You should take advantage of this time to make some preparations in advance." Zichen nodded. If a battle really happened, they would need all kinds of resources. Only with resources could they recover quickly in the midst of war. "When the extra-legal spirit demons arrive, I will try to negotiate with them and see if they can give up on that idea. After all, so much time has passed. Perhaps they, who have been sealed, have long since given up on destroying the world," Jihong said. "If the negotiation fails, then we have to be prepared for a big battle." Zichen asked curiously. "Even you can't stop them?" He had seen Jihong's methods. That heaven-severing technique was extremely extraordinary. Jihong shook his head and said, "The spirit demons are all very strong. If they insist on fighting, there's no way to stop them. Right now, the only thing that's beneficial to us is that there are many spirit casters among the spellbreakers. If we really fight, we might be able to win with numbers." At this point he paused again. "But we can't be sure if all the spirit casters are willing to fight for the myriad spirit world. After all, there's still a portion of the spirit casters who have submitted to the spellbreakers. Those people were the radicals who were against Zichen. Among them, the spellbreakers were the leaders and listened to their orders. How long will it be before they appear?" Originally, Zichen had only asked this question casually and did not expect to get a definite answer. Unexpectedly, Jihong took out 2 pieces of crystal and said, "When the brightest one fades, the spirit demon will descend." He gave the crystals to Zichen. Zichen took his leave. Jihong stood up and sent Zichen to the door. Zichen took the crystals and returned to his mansion. Next, he had to make some preparations in advance. First, he went to the Hall of Spiritual Spells. Then, he used his share to signal Milia to prepare more cultivation energy. The first thing he had to do was to build a Hall of Spiritual Spells outside Spellbreaker's city. Or he could build more halls of spiritual spells. In these years, Zichen had accumulated a large amount of wealth from selling black stones. Now, it was just the right time to put it to good use. Now that he had more people around him, it was much more convenient to carry it out. Under Milia's arrangement, all kinds of resources were sent outside Spellbreaker's city. Then, they were sent to the Blackstone mine. Zichen planned to use this place as a temporary base. Time passed day by day. Zichen became very busy. Sometimes, he could even go back and forth to Spellbreaker's city twice a day. Fortunately, his cultivation level was high now. Naturally, his speed became faster. No one knew what Zichen wanted to do. In just half a month, he had exchanged too much energy. If one person used it all, it would take him hundreds of thousands of years to finish it. 1 month later, the 5th crystal dimmed. Only 1 crystal was left. Zichen became more and more anxious. The black stones mined from Spellbreaker's city were no longer sent to the Hall of Spiritual Spells. Instead, they were sent out of Spellbreaker's city. Unknowingly, Zichen had already transferred all his resources to the outside world. Next, he just had to wait. He had to wait for the good news. If he could avoid fighting, Zichen certainly did not want to fight. The luster of the 6th crystal finally dimmed. Zichen knew that the extra-legal spirit demons had arrived. At the same time, in the depths of Spellbreaker City, cheers came from the passage. One after another, tall existences walked out of the passage. They were the extra-legal spirit demons. After being sealed for so many years, they broke the seal with one move. Each one of them roared happily. In the depths of the passage, the roars could be heard. Sensing the aura emitted by the extra-legal spirit demons, all the spellbreakers smiled. 9 Forces Realm. Each of them was comparable to the 9 Forces Realm. Greetings, sir! With 9 Forces Realm Smoke as the leader, all the spellbreakers who were responsible for opening the passage bowed to the extra-legal spirit demons who walked out of the passage. One after another, there were a total of 8 of them. The leader of the 9 Forces Realm glanced at Smoke. Then, his eyes moved and finally fell on an 8 Forces Realm spirit demon behind him. Being stared at, the 8 Forces Realm spirit demon was very nervous. "And what right do you have to be here?" A thunderous voice sounded. The other party stretched out his hand and grabbed the 8 Forces Realm spirit demon. He was responsible for helping Smoke come up with a plan. Before Smoke could explain, the other party grabbed the 8 Forces Realm spirit demon and stuffed him into his mouth. Chapter 5178. The extra-legal spirit demon of the 9 Forces Realm had swallowed an 8 Forces Realm spiritual mage. This shocked Smokey. In the records of the fragment, he knew that the extra-legal spirit demon was very strong, but he did not expect it to be so strong. His 8 Forces Realm spiritual mage's resistance was not effective at all. "Ants don't deserve to be with us." The voice of the extra-legal spirit demon spread out like thunder. The spellbreakers who came cheered. "Kill all the ants here immediately," the extra-legal spirit demon said again. "They don't deserve to live in this world." Smokey led the 8 extra-legal spirit demons to their residence. Halfway there, all the spellbreakers heard the news and rushed over. They immediately bowed to the 8 of them. When the extra-legal spirit demon saw the spiritual mages behind them, his eyes revealed a murderous intent. Seeing this, Smokey immediately said, "Sir, we live in this world and need some people to serve us." The extra-legal spirit demon said, "They are all slaves?" "Yes, sir, they are all our slaves," Smokey immediately said. When the group of spirit casters at the back heard this, their expressions became extremely awkward. They had always been attached to the spellbreakers and did their best to do things for them, but they never thought that in the eyes of these spellbreakers, they were actually slaves. Since they are slaves, they don't deserve to stand here with us. The extra-legal spirit demon waved his hand, and immediately, a surge of energy fell. The dozen spiritual mages in front were instantly badly mutilated. When the others saw this, they fled in fear. "It's useless to have too many slaves," the extra-legal spirit demon said. "Next, kill all the ants. Then, kill our way into the 10,000 spirit world," Smokey said. Now! Now! Obviously, the extra-legal spirit demons did not forget their mission. At this moment, a ray of light appeared. It was Jihong. He stood in the distance and looked at the extra-legal spirit demons. "Ants?" The extra-legal spirit demon's eyes became cold. He was unhappy with Jihong's eyes. Jihong said, "This time, I'm here to discuss something with you." A look of disdain flashed across the extra-legal spirit demon's eyes. "You!" In the next moment, his figure disappeared. Jihong's expression changed slightly, and he slapped his palm forward. The power of the Nine Forces realm gathered in his palm. Boom! The energy vibrated, and Jihong retreated 100 feet away. The extra-legal spirit demon from before stood in his original position. Looking at his reddened palm, Jihong's mood became heavy. He was indeed very strong. "Among the ants you can be considered big. That's more like it." The spirit demon punched out from 100 feet away. Boundless light flashed, and the fist light went straight for Jihong. Jihong crossed his arms in front of him. With a burst of fist light, he retreated 1,000 feet away. "Ha ha again!" The spirit demon laughed and charged forward. Jihong could see the murderous intent in the other party's eyes. He knew that there was no chance for negotiation. His figure flashed and disappeared. Seeing this, Smokey's face was full of disdain. "I thought he had some tricks up his sleeve. I didn't expect him to be a coward." These spellbreakers had always been wary of Jihong. Otherwise, they would not have let another voice appear here. After that, Smokey said, "Men, immediately destroy Jihong's residence. Kill all of his followers." "Yes." The spellbreakers at the back immediately responded. "That ant has some ability. Popularize FA, you guys go with him and bring back his head." 3 extra-legal spirit demons followed the spellbreakers. Next, there would be a large-scale purge. However, by the time they arrived, Jihong had already disappeared. Even his subordinates were nowhere to be found. Obviously, they had run away. Since they could not find Jihong, the extra-legal spirit demon called Popularize FA suggested to kill other ants. Therefore, a group of people who worked for the spellbreakers was killed. Among them, there were some radicals who were clamoring to kill Zichen. As for the spirit demons, they killed according to their mood. Jihong walked out from the depths and immediately went to find Zichen. Looking at Jihong's ugly face, Zichen said, "They're here?" Jihong nodded. "Those spirit demons have a strong murderous intent. They did not negotiate at all. They attacked when they saw me." Zichen's face changed. "What should we do now?" Jihong said. "Ask everyone to retreat. Leave this spellbreaker city immediately. Otherwise, what awaits them will be death." Zichen looked out of the door and saw Eugene, Du and I, and many others. "They are all my subordinates. They are all out now." These people were at least in the 7th strength state. They were definitely a strong team. However, they were retreating. This showed the threat of the spirit demons. "We have to leave first." Therefore, Zichen immediately asked people to spread the news. They would start with the Hall of Spiritual Spells. At the same time, he also informed those who were mining in the mines not to return to the city. They could just mine outside. Many people could not believe it when they heard that there was danger. They thought it was just a rumor. Faced with doubts, Zichen could not care less. He signaled Milia to take all the resources of the 8 halls of spiritual spells and leave Spellbreaker's city. As for the others, they could leave if they wanted to. Those who did not want to leave would have to leave their lives to fate. Just as the 8 halls of spiritual spells were closing their doors one by one, the people in the Spellbreakers Hall were watching the show. Most of them were spellbreakers. According to the news, the ones who were in danger were the spiritual spellbreakers. Similarly, those who were helping the spellbreakers did not leave either. They believed that those spellbreakers would be able to protect themselves. Halfway through, Zichen saw Kant. He had rushed back from the mines and gave Zichen the latest batch of black stones. Looking at the people leaving, he could not help but be stunned. He asked curiously, "What's going on?" Zichen said, "I forgot to tell you. The spiritual spellbreakers are in danger." "What danger?" Kant asked. "It's too late to tell you now. But you will know soon." Zichen looked at Kant and said, "Do you trust me?" Kant nodded. He naturally believed in Zichen. Zichen said, "Then remember well. If someone starts to pursue the matter of you helping me, you must remember to think of a way to disassociate yourself from me. Even if you say that I have been coercing you, it's fine. Try your best to say more bad things about me and the enmity between us." "Zichen, you..." Kant looked at Zichen in a daze. Zichen patted Kant's shoulder and said, "Also, when you see Phoebe and the others, you must remind them to disassociate themselves from me." With that, Zichen left with his people. Kant stared at Zichen's back. His emotions were very complicated. He did not know what had happened. But he knew that Zichen was doing it for his own good. He did not even care about bearing a bad reputation. He turned his head and looked into the depths. What had happened that could scare away Zichen, who was at the 8th-level state? Chapter 5179. The spiritual casters started to leave the city, and the other spellbreakers were watching the show. Some spiritual casters who thought they were working for the spellbreakers were also watching the show. Not long after, 9 out of 10 houses in Pofa City were empty. Many spiritual casters left without knowing the reason. They only knew that the Hall of Spiritual Spells was about to close. If they continued to stay, they would not be able to exchange for resources and would only die. Zichen said that there was a Hall of Spiritual Spells outside the city. As for what the real danger was, no one knew. In just 2 days, the entire shattering city became the world of the spellbreakers. The streets were empty and there were no pedestrians. Kant returned to the mine and told Phoebe and the others about the situation. They were very curious about what kind of danger would befall Shattering City. On the 4th day, the extralegal spirit demons came out from the depths and brought the spellbreakers to Shattering City. Looking at the empty place, the extralegal spirit demons were in a bad mood. Those ants had run away. Then, they killed on sight. Regardless of whether they were useful to the spellbreakers, they would be killed as soon as they saw them. In just 5 days, all the spiritual casters in Shattering City were killed. If Smokey had not stopped them, they would have killed their way to the mine and exterminated the spiritual casters there. Smokey's reason was simple. He needed them to continue mining to maintain the survival of the spellbreakers. Moreover, the miners were the ones with the lowest abilities. Only then did the extralegal spirit demons stop the massacre. Zichen's 2 black stone mines were the first to be forcefully occupied. The previous management was also reduced to miners and was taken over by the new spellbreakers. At the same time, the mine that Kant and the others were in was also occupied. Some spellbreakers questioned them about their relationship with Zichen. Sensing the murderous intent of the other party, Kant quickly told them about their relationship according to Zichen's instructions. In the end, the mine was taken away and they were chased away. They were not allowed to come close. Far away from the mine, Phoebe sighed. It seems that the sky has really changed. They returned to Shattering City and saw the spellbreakers who had gathered into a team. They were full of murderous intent. In front of these spellbreakers, there were 3 tall extralegal spirit demons. This was the first time they had seen an extralegal spiritual devil, so they were all shocked. "Sir?" Phoebe saw a 7th strength realm cultivator in the crowd and called out. When the 7th strength's realm saw them, he took the initiative to leave the group. "Why are you here?" Phoebe asked. Why are you here, my lord? Qi Li Jing said. We are going out to encircle and annihilate the spirit caster. Encircle and annihilate spirit mages? Sang Lolly asked in astonishment. Those people outside, the highest realm is only 3 realms. If we go out to encircle and annihilate them, won't it be a massacre? Qi Li Jing nodded and said, That's right, a massacre. After slaughtering those spirit spellcasters, we will kill our way out of here. The rest of you, come with me. All the spell breakers have gathered. Just like that, they joined the team. As they moved forward, Kant said, Why slaughter? They're so weak that they're no threat to us. Sure. 7 Forces Realm glared at Kant. Do you want to die? How dare you say such disgraceful words at this time? Now, we'll fight to the death with the spirit caster. From now on, don't say such things. In the future, this place will be ruled by the extra-legal spirit devil. Under the leadership of the extra-legal spirit devil, Pu Fa, the spell breakers walked out of the spell breakers and arrived outside the city. This place was desolate. There wasn't even any vegetation. Seeing such a scene, Pu Fa couldn't help but shake his head. It seems that the battle back then has completely destroyed this place. When they invaded back then, this place was like the depths of the city, full of singing birds, fragrant flowers, and abundant spiritual energy. Now, it was a desolate and ruined place. As they continued forward, they finally met with an obstacle. It was Jihong. He was the only 9 Forces realm among the spirit casters. Behind him was the team he had led back then. Zichen, who was at 8 Forces realm, was also among them. This was also Zichen's first time seeing an extra-legal spirit devil. Finally, someone who can fight. When Pu Fa saw Jihong, he laughed and dashed forward without hesitation. He didn't give Jihong a chance to speak. Everyone, retreat! After Jihong fought with Pu Fa, he shouted. He knew that he was definitely no match for the extra-legal spirit devil. All the spirit casters began to retreat. Facing such a scene, even Zichen couldn't change anything. He could only retreat with the crowd. Kill, leave no one alive! At the back, another extra-legal spirit devil waved his hand, and then he took the initiative to move forward. He wanted to help Pu Fa, but was reprimanded by Pu Fa. Obviously, he didn't need to intervene. He was angry, so he could only look at the 8 Forces realm spirit casters and ask them to attack. The spell breakers at the back quickly charged forward. The two sides soon met, and in an instant, a battle broke out. However, this battle was completely a one-sided massacre. A 9 Forces realm spirit devil opened his mouth and swallowed, and an 8 Forces realm spirit devil was eaten. This scene was witnessed by all the spirit casters, and they were almost in despair. An 8 Forces realm spirit casters charged toward Zichen, but Zichen took a step forward and disappeared into thin air. That spellbreaker was stunned and was very surprised. In the next moment, Zichen appeared beside him. At the same time, a ray of light flashed past the spellbreaker's neck. Poof! A head flew high into the air. The 8 Forces realm spellbreaker was dead. Then, Zichen's figure was like a ghost, and he began to reap the lives of the spellbreakers beside him. As for the battle on his side, it was the only bright spot amongst the spirit casters. At the same time, it also prevented a portion of the people from chasing after him. The few of you, retreat further away! At the same time, Zichen also saw Kant and the rest in the crowd. They hadn't made a move yet, so they were just there to make up the numbers. Hearing Zichen's telepathic message, the few of them also tactfully retreated, and stayed far away from Zichen's direction. Poof! 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 Zichen seemed to have entered a no-man's land and began to kill the spellbreakers wantonly. This was the only highlight of the spirit caster's battle. Seeing this, Smokey flew toward Zichen. You're courting death! He roared angrily and slapped down with his palm. Zichen retaliated with a palm. Boom! A powerful energy shock wave. Zichen's body slid backward, and Smokey, who was at the 9 Forces realm, was sent flying backward. Zichen's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he was about to follow up with another attack. At this moment, a shadow landed, and a terrifying pressure immediately attacked. Zichen's body disappeared into thin air. Boom! A powerful force landed, and the ground exploded. A powerful shockwave sent the nearby spellbreakers flying. The unharmed spirit demon who attacked looked at the deep pit in the ground, and his eyes turned cold. Shadow Destroyer? Zichen appeared more than 10 feet away. He raised his head and looked at the tall unharmed spirit demon. The other party's aura was too strong, and much stronger than the spellbreakers of the same realm. But he wasn't afraid, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Using the sword as a knife, he slashed down. 1. Mountain Chopping Technique. Chapter 5180. This mountain chopping technique was Zichen's most powerful attack. Being in the 8 forces state, this attack was fast and ruthless. The blade arc went straight for the unmagical spiritual demon. The light flashed. Puff! Although the unmagical spiritual demon sensed something was wrong and dodged in time, he still left an arm. This scene stunned all the spellbreakers nearby. They, who had already retreated further, not daring to get close. The morale of the spellbreakers was also greatly boosted. They ran even faster. "And I want you dead!" The unmagical spiritual demon with a broken arm roared to the sky. He did not use any technique, but the sky began to distort. Then, pieces of burning meteorites fell from the sky one after another. The meteorites emitted a great momentum, like a meteor shower that could destroy the world. In Zichen's hand, sword light flashed, cutting apart meteorites one after another. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he wanted to charge forward again. At this moment, he saw Jihong shaking his head at him. So, he retreated quickly. In addition to the unmagical spiritual demon, there were still 9 forces stayed here. Jihong did not dare to let Zichen take the risk. So, everyone retreated as they fought. Even with the protection of experts like Jihong and Zichen, the spellbreakers suffered heavy casualties. A feeling of despair spread through the ranks. After the sky darkened, the spellbreakers stopped attacking. They began to rest and reorganize. The exhausted spellbreakers continued to run. They held the energy in their hands, refining it while running for their lives. The atmosphere in the team had reached a freezing point. On the other hand, the spellbreakers were killing to their heart's content. They were very excited. Smokey came to Pu-Fa. Pu-Fa glanced at him. "What's the matter?" Smokey cupped his fists and said, "Sir, are we really going to kill all the spellbreakers?" Pu-Fa said coldly. "You want to plead for these ants?" Smokey quickly said, "Of course not, but some of them used to work for us. They're equivalent to our dogs. Now we're going to kill all of them. Don't you think it's a waste? Ants are ants. They're not even worthy of being our dogs." Pu-Fa said. "Kill them all," Smokey said. "My lord, we have to kill them. But if we kill all of them, it will be a huge loss to us, right? After all, we still have to survive here and do a lot of dirty and tiring work. Once they're all dead, it's our turn to do those things." "Then what do you mean?" Pu-Fa looked at Smokey. Smokey said, "Sir, what do you think?" Hearing Smokey's words, Pu-Fa nodded and laughed out loud. "That's right. Let's do that. Let's watch them kill each other." At this moment, the extra-legal spirit demon, who had lost his arm earlier in the day, said, "I don't agree with that person surrendering. I must kill him." Pu-Fa said, "Don't worry, Hien. That guy will die. What was his name again?" "Milord, his name is Zichen." At night, everyone was already very tired, but the pursuers were right behind them, so no one dared to rest. Zichen shouted, "Hold on a little longer." Now, he was going to lead everyone to the Blackstone mine. He planned to stop there and fight with the others. He had already discussed with Jihong to see if they could try to kill an extra-legal spirit demon together. As long as they could kill one, the rest could be exhausted to death one by one. Therefore, they had to stay away from the spellbreakers so that the other spirit demons could not help in time. The sky brightened up. The warm sunlight fell on them, but what they saw was not hope. At this moment, a voice came from behind them. All spellbreakers, listen up. Now I'll give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Everyone turned around and saw Smokey, who was in the Nine Forces realm, standing in the air. Behind him, a dense crowd of people appeared. They were the spellbreakers. Their realm was higher and they were faster. From now on, you can join us as long as you bring the head of a spellbreaker. Otherwise, all of you will die. Smokey shouted. This is your only chance to join us. Zichen's expression changed when he heard this. He immediately shouted, My lord, don't be fooled. This is... Before he could finish speaking, there were poof sounds coming from the team. The companions who had been fighting side by side now pointed their butcher's knives at each other. One head after another flew into the air. Shouts of killing instantly sounded everywhere. The previously exhausted crowd seemed to have been injected with infinite energy at this moment. When fighting the spellbreakers yesterday, they did not have such fighting spirit. Now, all of them were in high spirits. Zichen's expression became very ugly. Jihong shook his head. It was not that there was no hope. They already had a plan. However, a single sentence from the other party had disintegrated their battle prowess. This is mine! Get lost, don't steal my things! Go to hell! Shouts of killing were heard. The other spellbreakers appeared. They stood in the distance, laughing as they watched the crowd kill each other. Zichen shouted angrily, Don't be fooled! This is their trick! But no one believed him. The shouts of killing continued. Everyone, stay close to me! Zichen shouted again. Immediately, many people ran towards Zichen in a panic. During this time, some people pretended to panic, but in fact, they were handing knives to the people beside them. Poof! After cutting off a head, the other party ran away with it. You're courting death! A murderous intent flashed in Zichen's eyes. He raised his hand and a ray of light flew out. The person who tried to escape fell to the ground. At this moment, the person next to him immediately picked up the head that the other party had cut off and ran in the direction of the spellbreakers. Another person next to him also ran out, cut off the head of the person that Zichen had killed, and then ran away. These two people were originally people who wanted to be protected. When they saw the two heads, they were tempted. When Zichen saw this scene, he was a little disappointed. But with so many people in front of him, he could not just ignore them. He shouted again. Everyone, stand behind me! Those who dare to cause trouble will be killed without mercy! At this moment, his whole body was filled with murderous intent. Facing such a situation, he could only kill to stop the killing. Milia and the others came to Zichen's side. There were other people from the Hall of Spiritual Spells, as well as the maids who had followed Zichen back then. Zichen's perception spread out all around, probing for any movements. Once someone had evil intentions, he would immediately kill them. Seeing this, Jihong also made a similar move, protecting some people. There were also other experts who were protecting others. In the blink of an eye, the crowd was divided into two groups. One group held the heads and ran forward. There was also a group of survivors who were under the protection of the other experts. Looking at the people who were holding the heads, Smokey laughed and said, Good, very good. From now on, you are the most loyal servants of the spellbreakers. He looked at the people in the distance and said, My words still count. As long as you bring me a head, you are qualified to be servants. There is no time limit. It can be during the day or at night. It can be any time. When these words came out, everyone was in danger. Chapter 5181. Smokey's words caused these spiritual casters to panic and feel insecure. There were also some who were emboldened and prepared to kill the enemy again. Powerful auras were released from those experts and formed a deterrent force to those people. We're in a good mood today. You can leave now. Smokey waved his hand at Zichen as if he was waving away a group of flies. The spiritual casters started to flee as if they had been pardoned. Zichen and the others were still staring ahead and were in charge of covering the retreat. Now that the team was disloyal, it would be very troublesome. However, Zichen did not have a better solution at the moment, and could only try his best to protect the people around him. He was a little worried that if he brought everyone to the mine, his friends would be hurt. At this moment, Zichen could not help but have some selfish thoughts. After all, the threat of the spellbreakers was too great. Even he could not see any hope. Jihong's expression was also very heavy. At this moment, Zichen noticed a person in front of him. After seeing the other party clearly, his expression changed. It was Zhang Haotian, who was supposed to be cultivating in the Killing Crystal mine. He came here alone. Could something have happened to the mine? Everyone looked at the stranger who was blocking the road ahead. His aura was very cold and carried the meaning of not letting anyone near him. Zichen walked quickly towards Zhang Haotian. Just as Zichen was walking towards Zhang Haotian, one of the people behind him suddenly attacked his companion. Fortunately, his companion was very alert and immediately retreated. Poof! An arm flew out. The other party's expression changed drastically as he did not succeed in his attack and turned to flee. Swoosh! Zichen waved his hand and a ray of light flew over from afar like an arrow and directly shot into the other party's head. In the next moment, his head exploded with a bang. The people nearby all dodged and became more alert, keeping a distance from everyone. Zichen said coldly, "I'm not sure if you will die if you stay because no one can guarantee it. However, I'm sure that if you kill your companion at this time and defect to the side of the spellbreakers, you will definitely die. Because I will attack. I can even cut off the arm of an extra-legal spirit demon. I'm determined to kill you all. I believe there won't be any problems." This was a threat that could not be any more obvious. Under such special circumstances, this was the only way Zichen could come up with in a short amount of time. Persuade him with kind words? That was impossible. It would only allow the slaughter to continue. Everyone's complexion changed, and their expressions changed. Zichen added, "I can give you a suggestion." Everyone looked at Zichen again, wanting to hear what his suggestion was. Zichen said, "If you really want to leave, I won't stop you. If you are confident in your own strength, you can kill each other after you leave. That way, there is a 50% chance that you will join the Spellbreakers. Don't worry, if you take the initiative to leave the team and engage in a life-and-death battle, I will definitely not stop you." Everyone's expression changed again. Was this something a human would say? However, no one dared to refute Zichen. "You can make your choice now. You only have one chance, so make sure to grasp it well." Zichen continued to walk towards Zhang Haotian. "Why are you here?" Zichen came closer and asked. "Did something happen?" Zhang Haotian shook his head and then glanced at Zichen. Zichen understood and waved his hand. Immediately, a barrier enveloped the two of them. Zhang Haotian said, "They said that they can help kill an extra-legal spirit demon." "They?" Zichen was puzzled. "Is it Primordial Killer?" Zhang Haotian said. "They are from the Sholing clan." Jihong had mentioned the Sholing clan before. Back then, it was they who joined forces with the annihilating Shadow clan to quell the turmoil. However, after that battle, the Sholing clan was also completely wiped out. Unexpectedly, they appeared this time. This was definitely an excellent thing for everyone. Zichen asked. "Did they say how to attack?" Zhang Haotian said. "You are in the open, while they are in the dark. They will wait for an opportunity to kill 2 spirit demons quietly." There were only 3 extra-legal spirit demons among the spellbreakers this time. If they could kill 2 of them at once, they would have a great chance of turning the tide in this battle. Zichen asked. "Are you confident?" Zhang Haotian nodded. "They don't know about the Sholing clan. If we catch them off guard, there should be no problem." "Okay, I'll arrange it." Zhang Haotian left. At this moment, everyone was looking at Zichen and pinning their hopes on him. No one chose to leave. Some were not confident in their own combat strength, while others were worried that no one would come out to fight with them. At the same time, they were also worried that this was Zichen's scheme. Once they came out, it meant that they had the intention to rebel. Perhaps they would be killed by Zichen first. Zichen said, "Let's continue to set off. Let's go to the black stone lode I found and rest there. There is also a hall of spiritual spells there. Those who don't have resources can go there to exchange for them." Then Zichen walked toward Jihong. Jihong asked, "Is that your friend?" Zichen nodded and then transmitted the message to tell him about the Sholing clan. Jihong's eyes suddenly lit up. He was really surprised. However, he was not an ordinary person. Soon, he restrained his expression. "What are you going to do?" Jihong asked. "Now that the people are not calm, we must not leak the news," Zichen said. "After they make their move, the two of us will make our move. First, we will kill those in the Nine Forces realm. After killing a few, when the situation is reversed and the morale is restored, everything will be easy." Okay. That night, the experts led by Zichen were guarding the periphery. First, they were guarding against the spellbreakers suddenly attacking. Second, they were guarding against their own people killing each other. Even with the presence of these experts, there were still several assassination cases that night. Although those people were all killed, there was still one person who escaped from Zichen's direction. That was a Six Forces realm cultivator. He was very fast. During this time, Zichen launched an attack and pierced through the Six Forces realm cultivator's body. However, the other party did not die. He carried the head of a spiritual master and disappeared into the horizon. Zichen looked at the escaping existence and his expression became very ugly. He did not dare to chase after him because if he was not careful, the battle would erupt again. He could only shout, "I will remember you. The next time we meet, you will definitely die. Are you trying to scare me?" A voice came from the horizon. "Do you really think that I, a Six Forces realm cultivator, can be scared?" Soon, the other party disappeared. In the next few days, the spellbreakers came to harass them again, causing the team to be uneasy. Before night fell, there would be assassinations. On the fifth day, they even sent those spellcasters to attack. Among them, there was a spirit demon and two Nine Forces realm cultivators. Zichen blocked the spirit demon and Jihong blocked the two Nine Forces realm cultivators. After this battle, there were many casualties on the side of the spirit casters. Just like that, they fought and killed while escaping. Finally, they were about to reach the mine. Before that, they would pass by the Sholing crystal mine. Chapter 5182. Sorry, I have to rush my new book tonight, so I'll stop updating for another day. I'll try to update it tomorrow. Thunder Warrior, we'll stop updating for another day. It's in your hands right now, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5183. I have something to do, so I need to go out for a while. If I can come back before 11 o'clock, it will be updated normally. If I can't, then it will be even worse. Sorry, I need to go out for a while. It is in my hands, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5184. On the road ahead, the spellbreakers kept coming to harass them, causing the entire team to be restless. Everyone could not see any hope of survival, so they started to change sides one by one. Even with Zichen, Jihong, and the rest guarding them, attacks still happened. Since they could not see hope, they could only create hope. Perhaps this was what most people thought. But what about after joining the spellbreakers? They could still fight. There could not be absolute safety. Under the leadership of the extra-legal spirit demon, the spellbreakers followed closely behind, constantly harassing the spellbreakers. Those who had brought the heads over to show their loyalty also joined in. When the sky brightened, the spellbreakers who were resting were awakened by a cry. "They're here again!" Everyone, who was already exhausted, immediately got up. As far as they could see, the spellbreakers were here again. The defected spellbreakers played the role of vanguard soldiers, shouting loudly as they charged over. Everyone started another round of escape. Both sides soon met, and a battle broke out. The pursuers were not the scariest. The scariest thing was that in the Spellbreakers team, there would occasionally be people who would sneak attack their own people. As long as one head was chopped off, they would immediately change sides. After escaping in such a sorry state for a day, they were not far from the killing crystal mine. Compared to before they left, the team had lost as much as 60%. The rest of the people were all exhausted and in despair. Zichen's situation was slightly better. He said, "We'll take advantage of the night to hurry on, and we'll start to rest after 4 hours. Everyone, cheer up, we're almost at our destination." Everyone could only continue forward. Smokey brought the Spellbreakers and followed behind. Smokey looked at Pu-Fa beside him and said, "Sir, according to our estimation, they can't hold on for too long. If we attack tonight, we should be able to wipe them out in one fell swoop." Pu-Fa nodded and said, "That's good. Tonight, we'll wipe out all the ants in one fell swoop. Also, recruit some more people, and let them encircle and annihilate their own kind." "Yes." Smokey smiled, and an image appeared in his mind. In the image, the Spellbreakers began to kill each other until there was only one person left. Therefore, he could not figure out why the battle back then had failed. Wouldn't it be fine to let them fight each other? 2 hours later, Zichen signaled for the team to start resting. This place was already very close to the killing crystal mine. Zichen saw Zhang Haotian and quietly joined the team. At the same time, he also took Zichen's spirit of slaughter. All that was left was to wait. About an hour later, the Spellbreakers arrived. This time, they did not play a game of cat and mouse. They went forward and surrounded everyone. When everyone came to their senses and realized that they were surrounded, they fell into despair. "Sir, I surrender! I surrender too!" Without waiting for the Spellbreaker to threaten them, among the despairing spirit casters, someone immediately shouted loudly. Zichen looked ahead indifferently. Led by Pu-Fa, 3 extra-legal spirit demons walked out from behind the crowd. Smokey and the other 9 Forces Realm martial artists stood behind him. Pu-Fa said indifferently, "From now on, I'll give you one last chance to live. Go and kill the people around you, or you'll all die." Once these words were spoken, it was as though he had sentenced these spirit spellcasters to death. Killing each other was their last chance of survival. At this moment, Huyen pointed at Zichen and said, "Everyone can join except him." He still remembered the grudge of losing an arm, and he was determined to kill Zichen. Zichen looked at Huyen and said with a smile, "Even if you invite me, I won't join you." Zichen's smile quickly turned into a sneer. "Because I want to kill all of you." "You!" Huyen looked disdainful. Zichen said, "Why don't you try?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen took a step forward and fully released the aura of the 8 Forces realm. At the same time, there was light flowing in Zichen's eyes. This was the immortal spiritual eye, which stood out in the dark. Everyone's attention was on Zichen. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Huyen was enraged and strode towards Zichen. His aura began to flow. With every step he took, the ground would shake. The terrifying aura of the spirit demon was suffocating. The other Dharma breakers were sneering. In their eyes, Zichen's move was like a trapped beast's final struggle. It was better to have a vigorous battle before death than to have his head chopped off. Pu-Fa and the other extra-legal spirit demon were also very disdainful. A mere 8 Forces realm was not enough for them to take him seriously. It was a little cold. Pu-Fa smiled faintly. It seemed that Huyen had improved again, and could even affect him. Suddenly, a chill came and Pu-Fa's expression changed. He seemed to have guessed something. Unfortunately, it was too late. Puff! Puff! Suddenly, 2 soft sounds came from behind Huyen. When everyone heard the sound and turned their heads, they saw a shocking scene. The heads of the 2 tall spirit demons suddenly left their bodies, and blood kept spurting from their necks. Previously, everyone's attention was on Huyen and Zichen. No one paid attention to the other 2. The 2 of them had lost their heads. Huiyan turned around and saw a disappearing light. His expression changed immediately. Killing spirit! At this moment, Jihong rushed out and went straight to Huiyan. The aura of the Nine Forces realm surged around him, and he struck out with his palm. Huiyan was furious and turned to meet Jihong's palm. Boom! With a strong shock, Huiyan's huge body flew backward. Jihong sneered. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Back then, I killed more than one trash like you. 2 of the 3 extra-legal spirit demons suddenly died. And the last one was no match for Jihong in a head-on confrontation. The situation had reversed too quickly, so much so that everyone was unable to react in time. Puff! Smo, who was standing in the same place, suddenly felt a pain in his heart. When he looked down, he saw a long sword piercing his heart. He slowly looked up and saw Zichen's face. There was a touch of disbelief in his eyes. Zichen was clearly far away. How did he come to his side? He continued to turn his head and look to the side. Zichen was still standing there. How could there be 2 Zichens? At this moment, Zichen's body in the distance disappeared. Smo realized that it was the Shadow Rule. Then, his surging vitality disappeared, and his body fell backward. In the blink of an eye, 2 spirit demons died, and the leader, Smo, was also killed. The tables had turned. All the Dharma breakers were stunned on the spot. They could not believe that this was real. The killing spirit appeared, and a strong murderous intent surged in all directions. The Dharma breakers felt as if they had come to a world of ice and snow. The chill was bone-piercing. Puff! The killing spirit quickly swept past the glabella of a Nine Forces realm cultivator and pierced through. Chapter 5185. The spiritual casters were surrounded and they were in despair. They were even thinking about how to twist off the heads of their companions in exchange for a chance to live. However, they did not expect the situation to be reversed in the next moment. Zichen's desperate fight was the beginning. He did not really want to fight with Huiyan, but he wanted to attract everyone's attention and increase the chances of success for those who were secretly attacking. After the death of the 2 unshackled spiritual demons, Jihong displayed his true strength and suppressed a spiritual demon. Then, Zichen used the rules of shadow and killed the leader, Smoky. After that, he killed another Nine Forces realm cultivator. All of this happened in an instant. Not only did it reverse the situation, but it also caused the spellbreakers to suffer heavy losses. Even now, many of the spellbreakers had yet to react. They stood there dumbfounded. Poof! 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 At this moment, the sound of weapons piercing into bodies rang out. It was the other killing spirits that started to kill the spellbreakers. Go to hell! As for those who had betrayed them, their reactions were extremely fast. They changed sides once again and attacked the Magi Breaker. In an instant, there were endless screams. The spellbreakers were almost stunned. Retreat quickly! After Zichen killed Smoky, he went to the other Nine Forces realm cultivators. At the same time, the killing spirit was also under his control, harvesting the lives of the spellbreakers one after another. After refining the killing intent for such a long time, no one could stop the killing spirit. At the same time, Zichen also transmitted his voice to Kant and the rest. They were still in the team. If they did not retreat now, they would definitely be killed by the killing spirits. Let's go! Kant's reaction was not slow. He immediately pulled Sanlali and signaled for Phoebe and the rest to follow. At this moment, the spellbreakers were caught off guard by this attack. Hearing the screams of their companions, they also felt fear and began to retreat. When one person retreated, everyone retreated. Instantly, they lost their morale. As for the spiritual casters, because they had been angered too much previously, seeing that the spellbreakers were afraid and wanted to escape, they all rushed forward. No one was willing to miss such an opportunity to beat a drowning dog. For a moment, battle cries shook the heavens. The spirit spellcasters all had a feeling that they were the masters. Kant led a few people and fled quickly. There were 5 people hiding in the dark. After seeing Kant, some people had killing intent in their eyes. A woman at the side shook her head, indicating for them to go over. This woman was Xiao Wei. She already had a fleshly body and had reached the 6 forces state. As for the other 4 people, 3 of them were at the 5 forces realm, and the old man was at the 7 forces realm. This was the strongest battle force that the Shadow Clan could bring out at the moment. After giving way to Kant and the others, they moved forward and began to ambush the law-breakers who had lost their will to fight. This was the revenge war of the Shadow Clan after so many years. Xiao Wei's body split into 3. Like an illusion, it swept past the bodies of the 3 spellbreakers. The 3 fleeing figures suddenly paused. It was as if the life force in their bodies had been sucked out by someone. They fell stiffly to the ground. This was the true battle strength of the Shadow Destroyer clan. They were born to comprehend the rule of Shadow and had extremely strong killing power. The others also had their own methods. The battle cries lasted for a long time. The originally exhausted people also went on a killing spree after the situation was reversed. For many years, it was the law-breakers who suppressed the spirit spellcasters. They didn't even treat them as humans. This time, they could finally vent their anger. No one could have thought that the situation would be reversed in such a situation. From one kind of despair to another kind of despair. More than 2,000 lawbreakers, in the end, only 100 or so returned alive. More than 90% of them were killed or injured. As for those who escaped, the highest realm was only at the 7 forces realm. The reason why that person was able to escape was not because he was strong, but because Zichen deliberately let him go. Otherwise, Kant and the others, who were at the 6 forces realm, might be in trouble. The battle was over, and everyone began to clean up the battlefield. It had to be said that the lawbreakers were all rich. Everyone's harvest was not small. Some people wanted to find those elusive, ghost-like existences. But they didn't find them. After the battle ended, they seemed to have disappeared and could no longer be seen. Zichen also disappeared at some point. Next, Jihong would lead the team, and Zhang Haotian would secretly guide them to the black stone vein that Zichen controlled. On the way back, everyone's mood was surging. The great victory this time made their morale high. Among these people, there were also some defectors. They changed sides at the critical moment and attacked again, catching the law-breakers off guard. They were also in a good mood, but now they were deliberately alienated by the others. Because if things went wrong, they might attack their own people next time. Zichen came to the killing crystal vein. Yuan Sha was already waiting at the entrance of the cave. Then, the two went underground. Coming here again, Zichen clearly felt that this place was different from before. The killing intent was thicker and purer. After the killing spirit appeared, it turned into a stream of light, and went to the deepest part first. Fortunately, you guys made a move. Otherwise, I really don't know how to resist. When they went deeper, Zichen was also very emotional. Perhaps, there's always a way out. Yuan Sha glanced at Zichen and said, "You cooperated very well too. It can be considered to have caught them off guard. However, it'll be difficult to deal with them in the same way." Zichen said with a smile. This time, the lawbreakers suffered heavy losses. It's more or less the case that they were wiped out. There aren't many strong masters left in the depths, but there are about 5 extra-legal spirit demons. This time, Zichen went to the depths to pay a visit to the Slaughter Soul clan. At the same time, he wanted to ask just how many powerhouses they had. If there were enough strong masters, Zichen didn't mind leading people to kill them directly. He originally thought that the two sides could coexist. Now it seemed impossible. For the people here, for the people in the all-spirit world, Zichen would never allow them to live. Under Yuan Sha's lead, Zichen came to the deepest part and saw the leader of the killing spirits. After seeing her, Zichen was obviously stunned. It was a woman. The woman said, "Why? Looking at your expression, can't a woman be the leader?" Zichen shook his head and said, "Not at all. I'm just a little surprised." The woman said, "There's nothing to be surprised about. The others are all dead. I'm the only one left." When she said this, the woman said it very calmly, but Zichen could hear the sadness in her voice. No matter if it was a man or a woman, combat power was the most important thing. Chapter 5186. The two killing spirits of the Nine Powers realm were the strongest here. Including Jihong, there were only 3 of them. On the side of the extra-legal spirit demons, there should be 5 of them. They had an absolute advantage in numbers. On the side of the lawbreakers, no one was sure how many of them were at the Nine Powers realm. In short, the difference in strength between the two sides was too big. In the battle that year, the Annihilating Shadow Clan and the Killing Spirits Clan had lost their entire clan to block the extra-legal spirit demons. This time, they could only rely on the spiritual casters. But on the side of the spiritual casters, there was only Jihong, who was at the Nine Powers realm. For many years, the highest realm of spiritual casters was only at the 8 Powers realm. There seemed to be a force in the unseen world that prevented the spiritual casters from breaking through. Zichen looked at the leader of the killing spirits in front and said, "Why don't we fight back?" The leader of the killing spirits said, "Up to you. Anyway, there are only these few of us. If we all die, then forget it." This sentence made Zichen feel a lot of pressure. When Zichen left, the leader of the killing spirits let Yuan Sha follow him. If Zichen had any orders, he would tell Yuan Sha. The two of them left the mine. Yuan Sha said in a low voice, "Many people died in the battle that year. Those who died in the battle left the slim chance of survival to the leader. The reason why we can be revived is because many people gave up the chance to be revived." Yuan Sha's tone did not have a disappointed expression. He was very frank and said, "The purpose of our revival is to destroy the extra-legal spirit demons until the last person dies in battle. So, we are not afraid of death. When we were revived, we had already decided to fight to the death." Zichen's heart was heavy. He had never liked to take the initiative to attack. Although he had killed countless people, he did not like to kill. If both sides could coexist peacefully, he would agree. But it was obvious that this was not possible. So, he had to take action. This time, not only did he have to kill the invading extra-legal spirit demons, he also had to kill the lawbreakers. At the very least, he had to kill those who had the intention to rebel. Arriving at the Blackstone mine, this place had become very lively. There were 2 spiritual spell halls. The various resources inside were brought out by Zichen from Dharma Breaker's city. They could sustain these people for a long time. Of the 2 spiritual spell halls, one was specifically for exchanging resources. Everyone could barter here. As for the other one, it was to provide some help to those who had no resources. However, these people also needed to do something. For example, they could build a temporary spellbreaker city here. The spellbreakers fled in panic, and the remaining 100 or so returned to the empty, shattering city. The 8 great spiritual spell halls were already closed, but the 4 broken spell halls were still open. It was a pity that there were too few people going in and out. When the news spread, it immediately caused an uproar. The surviving 7 Forces Realm Lawbreaker went to the depths to report the latest situation. This caused another commotion in the inner circle. The leader of the extra-legal spiritual devil immediately flew into a rage when he heard the news. He did not hesitate to give the order to kill the spirit caster in the depths first. When those spirit spell casters heard the news, they started to flee. After they came out, they signaled the spell-breaking hall's spirit casters to quickly escape. Some people heard him and followed him out of the city. Some people didn't mind, because no matter what, someone had to work. Therefore, those people who didn't listen were all killed. In just a few days, there wasn't a single spirit caster left in the entire shattering city. After cleaning up the spirit casters here, the extra-legal spiritual devil in the depths led all the spell breakers and false shadow destroyers out of the city. They came out in full force. They wouldn't rest until they died. When Zichen heard the news, he could only lead his people to battle. There weren't many experts on their side. Luckily, there were many of them. "Everyone, you should have heard the news. Spirit casters and spell breakers can't coexist," If we can't kill them, then the next ones to die will be us. Before they left, Zichen called everyone over and said, As for the choice, I hope that all of you have a good idea in your hearts. Even if you join the Spellbreakers now, after the spirit casters are all killed, those rebels will still die. Zichen did not say any more words. Everyone knew the reason. The only difference was the choice. He let Yuan Sha inform the Shura clan. Next, there would be a great battle to the death. Zichen led his people and started to move out. Since it was the final battle, there was no need to wait for the enemy to arrive. The Shura clan also moved out. They followed behind. There was also the Shadow Destroyer clan. No matter their level, everyone came. They hid in the dark and almost no one could see them. The monk, Su Mengyao, Miao Miao and the others also came. Actually, Zichen had gone to the Black Tower once to ask for help. In the end, the existence of the 7th floor of the Black Tower told him that he could only help kill Seuss and the others. This made Zichen speechless. Right now, he could kill countless Theseus with a single finger. Zichen walked in front of the group. Jihong followed beside him but was half a step slower than Zichen. This meant that in this battle, Zichen had absolute control over it. It could even be said that Zichen was the leader of all of them. No one knew the reason, especially Eugene and the others. They couldn't understand. Why did the Lord give the position of leader to Zichen, who was in the 8 powers realm? The two sides finally met in an open space. Looking at the 3 extra-legal spirit demons in front of him, Jihong was surprised and said, Why are there 2 less? When the extra-legal spirit demons first appeared, he went there once and saw 8 of them. A few days ago, he killed 3. Now 3 more had appeared. Where were the other 2? But it had to be said that this was good news for them. With 2 less absolute battle prowess, their chances of winning would increase by several times. Kill! At Zichen's order, everyone rushed forward. The final battle began. Zichen was facing an extra-legal spirit demon, so he used his strongest move right from the start. Boom! Both sides palmed and retreated. On the side, Jihong beat back an extra-legal spirit demon with a palm. At the same time, 2 shadows appeared out of nowhere and attacked the extra-legal spirit demon. It was the Shura clan. According to Zichen's order, the 2 of them joined forces to kill one of them. The extra-legal spirit demon had expected this and quickly punched. With a boom, one of them was sent flying. However, the other person successfully harvested his head. There were 2 left. Zichen blocked one of them, while Jihong and the 2 slaughter spirits went all out to kill the other one. After a while, the second extra-legal spirit demon was killed. Then, Zichen gave up on this opponent and began to kill the other spellbreakers. And those pseudo-shadow destroyers. Jihong and the other 2 continued to kill the last extra-legal spirit demon. This battle was fought very bitterly. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. However, after the death of the absolute combat power, the spellbreakers clearly had the upper hand. Then, the spellbreakers began to be defeated. Defeat after defeat. They were utterly defeated. In the end, there were only a few dozen people who escaped alive. They were already scared out of their wits. On the battlefield, the spellbreakers burst into thunderous cheers. Zichen and Jihong were undoubtedly treated as heroes. The 2 Shura spirits had disappeared. The 2 of them had suffered heavy injuries. Just as they were cheering, the last 2 extra-legal spirit demons in the depths of Dharma-shattering city worked together to open a passage. This passage led to the world of extra-legal spirit demons. Chapter 5187. The seal was opened, and a strong aura poured into the passage. The 2 extra-legal spirit demons looked at the passage excitedly. It was finally open. After so many years, the passage between the 2 worlds was opened again. Let's go! They looked at each other and entered the passage. 2 hours later, they came out again. This time, they brought more extra-legal spirit demons with them. There were extra-legal spirit demons in every realm, and they were like an army. The extra-legal spirit demons had officially invaded. All along, Their goal had not been to use the hands of the lawbreakers, but to open the passage between the two worlds and allow the extra-legal spirit demons to descend. Outside Shattering Lost City, almost all the enemies were wiped out in this battle, and the morale of the spiritual casters was greatly boosted. They were shouting that they wanted to fight their way into Shattering Lost City. Currently, Shattering Lost City had no effective combat power. Now was the best time to occupy it. Jihong thought it was a good idea, but Zichen said, "Aren't there still 2 extra-legal spirit demons? Let's go inside and see what's going on." To be safe, he asked Xiaowei to take a few members of the Annihilation Shadow clan to go inside and see what was going on. Although there were 2 extra-legal spirit demons left, they were obviously not a threat. But Zichen still had a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart. It seemed that those 2 people would become the biggest threat. A day later, Xiaowei came back with people. Her face was extremely pale, and she told him the latest news. After hearing this, Zichen's face changed. The army of extra-legal spirit demons had invaded? This was troublesome. He didn't know how many strong cultivators would come here. These people were obviously unable to resist. Zichen's first thought was to take as many people as he could and leave. There was no way he could win this battle. He had no confidence. So he went to the Black Tower. The woman was waiting for Zichen at the door. She seemed to know what he was thinking and said directly, "Don't think about it. It's impossible. Not to mention that you can't take others with you, even you can't leave now." "Why?" Zichen asked. "Because the passage between the two worlds is opened by force. Once the extra-legal spirit demons find clues, they can quickly open the passage between the two worlds and go to the all-spirits world," the woman said. "In this aspect, the extra-legal spirit devil has an extraordinary advantage." After saying that, the woman waved her hand again and said, "Moreover, before you get rid of the extra-legal spirit demons, I suggest you don't come here. Otherwise, they will come looking for you." Zichen panicked when he heard this. "Then what should I do?" the woman faintly said. "If you want to turn the situation around, there is a way to try." Zichen listened. No matter what method it was, he had to try it. Because this time, not only did it concern the life and death of other spirit spellcasters, it also concerned his friends and family. After all, he had brought everyone with him this time. "Use the rules of this world to crush them," the woman said. "Just like how you are the ruler of the Tianwu world. In the Tianwu world, no one can beat you." Zichen was stunned, and said, "But how can I become the master of this world?" The woman glanced at Zichen. "Very simple, jump into the Milky Way. It contained the essence of this world. As long as one could comprehend it, they would succeed. Otherwise, they would be lost." Zichen thought of the Milky Way in the periphery, and his face immediately turned ugly. It was already lucky to be able to come back to life once. How could there be a second time? This could not be said to be too difficult. It was simply a matter of life and death. "Oh right, you have to enter the Nine Forces realm. This realm is closer to the essence of the world, and the probability of survival will be higher." After saying that, the woman directly closed the door, which meant that she was sending him off. Zichen stood outside, shaking his head and smiling bitterly. After returning, he looked very depressed. This time, he was afraid that there was really no way. He called some capable people over and told them the truth. Everyone could see Zichen's helplessness, and they were all very depressed. They were just short of despair. Jihong said, "If you can break through, there is still some hope." Zichen's combat strength was very strong. Once he reached the Nine Forces realm, he might be able to turn the situation around. Zichen shook his head. He knew very well that even if he reached the Nine Forces realm, he would not be able to change anything. With the invasion of the extra-legal spirit demons, there would definitely be a lot of Nine Forces realm cultivators. He might be able to fight a few of them, but he definitely could not fight a group of them. The old man from the Shadow Destroyer clan thought that Zichen felt that there was no hope for him to break through. He thought for a moment and said, "In that case, Zichen, you should go back to the Soul Mountain." Zichen looked at the old man. the old man said. The divine mountain has a spirit. Maybe it can sense our current crisis and situation. Go inside and take a look. Maybe you can find a way to break through. Breaking through to the Nine Forces realm would obviously not change the situation of the battle. But it had to be said that it was better than being in the Eight Forces realm. Zichen decided to go to the Soul Mountain. Before leaving, he went to find Su Mengyao. Zichen left the Black Tower to her. Zichen was just an ordinary person, not a saint. He also had his own selfish motives. He told Su Mengyao to take everyone into the Black Tower and go back to the Tianwu world if there was no way to escape. No matter what the consequences were, it was fine as long as they could survive. He did not want these people to die in the hands of the extra-legal spirit demons. As for the rest, he would leave it to him. Zichen had made up his mind. If he could break through to the Nine Forces realm, he would jump into the galaxy. Life and death depended on the will of the heavens. Before leaving, Zichen found Yuan Sha again and told him not to let the Soul Slayer clan fight to the death. After all, it was not easy to survive. When they were no match for the enemy, they should run if they could. Moreover, his companions were willing to give them the chance to live. Their real intention must be to let them live well, not to send them to death after they were resurrected. After telling them some trivial things, Zichen finally said goodbye to Jihong. No one knew whether they would meet again in the future. Zichen began to turn back. Taking advantage of the night, he returned to Dharma's shattering city. It used to be very lively here, but now there was almost no one here. Zichen did not stop. He walked out of the city and went deep into the mountains. What Zichen did not know was that when he went deep into the mountains, the extra-legal spirit demons' army also came to the mountains. They first attacked those who were mining. One place after another, one mine after another, not leaving a single person alive. They were all killed. The extra-legal spirit demons came with the mission of destroying the world, so they did not need slaves. Kant, Phoebe, Sanglali and the others followed behind the team. They saw Zichen's two mines with their own eyes. They saw those familiar people being killed one by one. Looking at this team of barren people, there was only fear in their hearts. From Marcus to Mitch, not a single one of them was alive. Kant was very sad, but there was nothing he could do. After exterminating the spiritual casters here, they began to walk out of Dharma's shattering city. Then, it was a carpet search and hunting. There was no end to it, until the spiritual casters were exterminated. Chapter 5188. Escape. Endless escape. The entire army of extra-legal spirit demons was mobilized. Starting from the Six Forces realm and the Nine Forces realm, they killed countless spiritual spellcasters. This battle was destined to be without any suspense. When Jihong broke out in the first battle, he fought two extra-legal spirit demons of the Nine Forces realm. He escaped with injuries. After that, the spiritual spellcasters did not even put up a corresponding resistance. They kept retreating. When Zichen entered the space where the Soul Mountain was, the spiritual spellcasters had already been utterly defeated. He could not care so much anymore. He entered the space and headed towards the Soul Mountain. There was a passage in the mountain that went straight into the depths. At the end, looking at the distorted space in front of him, Zichen stood there and took a deep breath. The old man had said that he could only come here once. The situation was unique. Zichen needed the help of the Soul Mountain. Otherwise, this world, the 10,000 spirit world, would no longer exist. He walked in. The ripples surged, but did not stop him. Zichen entered smoothly. This place was like a land of chaos. It was hazy, and Zichen couldn't see anything. He did not know if the sacred mountain had a spirit. He first bowed to the front and then said, "Senior, this world is facing a life and death crisis. I came here rashly to find a way to break through." It was quiet all around. There was no sound. Zichen said 3 times in a row. "Even if you break through, you can't stop this disaster." An ethereal voice suddenly sounded. "This is fate. This world should have disappeared many years ago. The people of this world are just making a futile struggle. It could be heard that this voice did not have any attachment to the world. Zichen said, Maybe, but I believe that everything depends on human effort. I should at least try, right? Instead of waiting for the fate of death to come, it is better to fight hard. Even if in the end, I still have to die, I have a clear conscience. Even if you break through, how will you deal with it? The voice sighed. There are countless enemies. You can't kill them all. Zichen said firmly. I will jump into the Milky Way and seek more powerful strength. Milky Way? The existence was stunned. Obviously, he did not expect Zichen to say that. Yes. Do you know the consequences of entering the Milky Way? It's just a life. Many people have already died, so it doesn't matter if I die. Zichen answered frankly. Why are you so persistent? The voice asked again. Because I have family and friends. I want to protect them, Zichen said. Besides that, there are many more innocent people. I thought you would talk about the common people first. I'm not a saint. I'm just a normal person. If I can save the world, I'm naturally willing to do so. But if I can't save them, I'll save my family and friends first, Zichen said. Because they are the ones I care about. Yeah, the voice sighed. The reason why we live in this world is because we have things that we care about, we have our own concerns. With that said, a surge of power gathered from all directions and headed straight for Zichen. These powers were too tyrannical, and they came so suddenly that Zichen was unable to withstand them. Everything went black and Zichen fainted. The energy continued to enter his body. Kill! Don't let a single ant go! The army of extra-legal spiritual demons killed all the way. Wherever they went, not even the law-breaking beasts were spared. Anyone who encountered them would die. They kept moving forward and finally arrived at the killing crystal mine. From the outside, they could not see anything unusual. An extra-legal spiritual demon in the Nine Forces realm sensed something. He pointed at the mine and said, Go inside and have a look. Immediately, a team sneaked in. The leader was in the Eight Forces realm. Half an hour passed, but there was still no movement. The people inside did not come out. The Nine Forces realm frowned. Send more people in. This time, 2 Eight Forces realm cultivators led dozens of 7 Forces realm and 6 Forces realm cultivators into the mine. Like a clay ox entering the sea, there was still no movement. Send more people in. Let me know if you notice anything unusual. The third team went in. They were much more careful. When they reached the entrance of the mine, one of them shouted, Sir, there's killing intent in the mine. After 2 rounds of ambush, the killing intent in the mine could no longer be concealed, even by the Killer Soul Clan. It's the Killer Soul Clan. Let's go in. The Nine Forces realm cultivator shouted angrily and led the others into the mine. What followed was a fierce battle. The Killer Soul Clan, who had been hiding in the dark, appeared and launched a surprise attack on the extra-legal spiritual demons. Powerful energy waves kept gushing out from the mine. The entire mine was shaking violently. The battle underground was extremely brutal. As the news spread, even more extra-legal spirit demons rushed over and entered the underground. They were the Killer Soul Clan. They had a feud and would not rest until one of them was dead. In the end, the entire killing crystal mine seemed to have become a mass of energy that was ignited. All kinds of killing crystals in it exploded in an instant. Boom! The sound was deafening. It formed a horrifying airwave that spread out in all directions. Within a radius of dozens of miles, there was smoke and dust that shook the sky and covered the sun. The extra-legal spiritual demons, who were rushing in, stopped far away and looked ahead in shock. The ground was still shaking violently, and the smoke and dust were rolling. They waited for the shaking of the ground to stop. After the smoke and dust between heaven and earth had dispersed, they immediately flew toward the killing crystal mine. When they arrived, the entire mine had disappeared and turned into a huge deep pit. In the deep pit, there were countless broken arms and limbs. None of the extra-legal spiritual demons who had entered the mine survived. They were all dead. including the 4-9 Forces realm cultivators. This was the biggest loss they had suffered since the invasion of the extra-legal spiritual demons. As for whether the Killer Soul clan was completely wiped out, no one knew. In any case, in the subsequent encirclement, not a single slaughter spirit appeared. The spirit spellcasters were still on the run. Initially, they were running in an organized manner, but in the end, they were running in disarray. They had more than 100 times more people than the extra-legal spiritual demons, but they were still defeated. As they fled, there were fewer and fewer people following Su Mengyao. However, there were still hundreds of them. They were fleeing outside according to Su Mingyao's memory. The monk and the others were in the team. Currently, all the people who came from Tianwu world were still alive. However, the pursuers were still following them. Everyone knew that death was only a matter of time. In the Soul Mountain, Zichen had already lost his consciousness. The energy of heaven and earth flowed into his body continuously. Zichen's aura began to grow. A light shadow appeared in front of Zichen. Its body was in an illusory state. It was not clear whether it was a man or a woman. It stared at Zichen for a long time. Perhaps it is because of people like you that this world can produce miracles again and again. Come on, for your concern, continue to fight. The shadow suddenly disappeared and turned into pure energy, entering Zichen's body. Chapter 5189. Su Mengyao and her team were hiding in the mountains. They had been running all the way, and their destination was the outer region in her memory. The extra-legal spiritual demons were hot on their heels, getting closer and closer. You guys go. I'll stay with a few people. The monk looked at the exhausted people. It had not been easy to escape all the way here. The extra-legal spiritual demons were about to catch up. If they did not split up, everyone would die here. Let's go together. Su Mengyao opened her eyes and said, Never split up. The monk said, The enemy will catch up in less than 15 minutes. What awaits us then is death. If we split up now, some of us still have a chance to live. Never split up. Su Mingyao's tone was firm. She emphasized again and looked at the people around her. They had lost people along the way here, but none of the core members were missing. Therefore, she absolutely did not agree to everyone splitting up. And it was obvious that after splitting up, the people who stayed behind would definitely die. Zichen might lose his life for this place. She could not stop Zichen, nor could she stop him. Therefore, she could not let everyone die here. Time passed bit by bit. Everyone was also very nervous. They were all recovering as much as they could. Follow me quickly! At this moment, a voice rang out. Xiao Wei's figure appeared. She was a shadow destroyer and could hide in this place. She had always been in charge of gathering information. Everyone got up and followed Xiao Wei back the way they came. After walking for about 10 miles, they saw corpses all over the ground. They were all extra-legal spiritual demons. They had died miserably. Many of the corpses were incomplete. This stunned everyone. Who killed them? Why did they not show up? Look ahead. Xiao Wei pointed ahead. It was the center of the pile of corpses. Everyone moved forward and saw many resources scattered there. There were no rings, only resources. It was as if someone had deliberately taken them out. Everyone did not understand. Why? Su Mengyao said. Divide those resources. Everyone has a share. She looked into the distance and vaguely guessed who did it. Unfortunately, he did not show up. Let's go. Su Mengyao turned and said, Work hard on cultivation and strive to become stronger as soon as possible. In this area, the extra-legal spirit demons suppressed the spirit spellcasters, killing them until they were utterly defeated. However, it was unknown when the extra-legal spirit demons began to die. No one knew how they died, whether they were killed by one person or by a group of people. In short, when they found the corpse of the extra-legal spirit demon, there were also some scattered resources beside it. These resources were not placed in the spirit ring. Instead, they were placed outside and scattered everywhere. It was as if he had deliberately left it behind. Over time, as such things continued to happen, everyone knew that there were experts silently protecting and helping them. The discovered resources were not placed in the spirit rings, but outside so that more people could obtain them. The current environment was to allow everyone to survive first, and then slowly become stronger. That was hope. A team of extra-legal spirit devils was advancing. There were about 30 of them. The leader was a 9-forces realm cultivator. They had already been out for a period of time and had killed countless spirit spellcasters. Be careful. Recently, there have been quite a few spirit caster survivors. As they advanced, the 9-forces realm cultivator reminded them. Suddenly, a cold light appeared. Unexpectedly, it directly pierced through the 9-forces realm cultivator's head. This scene happened so quickly that the other party did not even have time to react. It was a flowing light. It looked like a short dagger, and was extremely fast. Whoosh! 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 The flowing light flew past and passed through the bodies of the extra-legal spirit demons. In just a few breaths, more than 30 people were all dead. They all fell into a pool of blood. That light was the spirit of slaughter. However, the one controlling it was not Zichen, but a woman. The leader of the Spirit of Slaughter clan. Yuan Sha brought back Zichen's words. Therefore, the Spirit of Slaughter clan changed their strategy, and did not choose to fight to the death. Instead, they tried to preserve their strength and slowly destroy the extra-legal spirit demons. She quickly collected everyone's spirit rings, then took out the resources and scattered them in various places. After that, she left. More than 100 miles away, on a mountain peak, she stopped again and took out a portion of the resources and placed them there. She repeated this process. Of course, this was also what Zichen had said. By doing this, she might not be able to distribute the resources to everyone, but there was still hope. At present, in this world, hope was undoubtedly the rarest thing. As long as there was hope, there would be a future. The killing continued, and so did the counterattack. In response, the extra-legal spirit demons deliberately set up ambushes to kill the few people, but they did not succeed. Once, when he finally succeeded in setting up an ambush, 2 more people appeared and slaughtered all the extra-legal spiritual devils that were lying in wait. There were 3 people standing in a field. Zichen, Jihong, and the leader of the Spirit of Slaughter. If we follow this method, we should be able to hold on for a while. Zichen looked at the 2 of them. The 2 of them nodded at the same time. The Soul Mountain disappeared, and Zichen had successfully broken through. After he came out, he thought of this method. He did not hope to protect everyone, but only to give the people living here a chance to survive. Have you really decided? Jihong looked at Zichen. This is the only way. Zichen sighed and said, Even if I can't save this world, I have to save my friends. The woman took out the Spirit of Slaughter. The Spirit of Slaughter turned into a ray of light and rotated around Zichen. Zichen said, I'll leave it with you for now. The woman looked at Zichen in surprise. Zichen said, I don't have any confidence in this trip. Instead of letting it follow me into the Fallen Star River, it's better to let it play a greater role with you. The Spirit of Slaughter reluctantly left Zichen and returned to the woman's side. Next, Zichen would go to the Fallen Star River to seek the most powerful force. But before that, Zichen had to find the extra-legal spirit demons and announce his existence to them. Therefore, this was the last time the 3 of them met. If everything went well, they would naturally have a chance to meet again in the future. If there was an accident, this would also be the last time the 3 of them met. Be careful. Jihong glanced at Zichen. You too. Zichen walked in the direction of Pofa City. The 2 of them watched Zichen leave. At this moment, the responsibility of the whole world was on him alone. This kind of pressure could be imagined. The 2 of them soon left and went their separate ways. They also had to do something for this world. Even if it was just a little. Zichen kept moving forward. Along the way, he encountered a team of extra-legal spirit demons. He went forward without hesitation. He did not let these people go just because the highest realm was only the 8 forces state. He killed them all. No one was left alive. He kept moving forward. He killed all the extra-legal spirit demons he encountered along the way. Finally, he reached the outside of Pofa City. Many extra-legal spirit demons had already gathered here. Chapter 5190. Zichen stood outside the city and looked ahead coldly. Light kept appearing there, and extra-legal spirit demons were emerging from the city. They had already received news that a spiritual master was killing their people along the way. He was heading towards the city, leaving no survivors wherever he went. An extra-legal spirit demon of the Nine Forces realm walked out of the city. He looked at Zichen in front of him, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "And how dare you come here?" Zichen did not respond and walked straight ahead. His eyes were cold, and killing intent began to swirl around him. "You don't know what's good for you." The extra-legal spirit demon charged towards Zichen. A violent aura surged around him, and the space was distorted wherever he went. The Nine Forces realm was the highest realm that could exist in this world. Looking at the incoming opponent, Zichen did not slow down. Chi! A light suddenly flew out of his body like a shadow and swept past the extra-legal spirit demon's body. The extra-legal spirit demon's powerful aura dissipated in an instant. He stopped in his tracks and looked at Zichen in shock. The next moment, his body fell. Shadow assassination technique. "It's a shadow destroyer!" Exclamations came from behind. In this world, only a shadow destroyer could have such a technique. As the first Nine Forces realm cultivator fell, earth-shattering shouts came from behind. "Kill!" All the extra-legal spirit demons that came out rushed forward. Their realms were different, but their killing intent was the same. They were not afraid of Zichen. The current spiritual masters lacked such an aura. Zichen stretched out his finger and drew a line in front of him. Buzz! A straight ray of light extended forward. It was like an arc of a knife. Wherever it passed, the extra-legal spirit demons were split into two, and their incomplete bodies scattered on the ground. But there was still a group of experts who blocked Zichen's attack and charged towards him. The weakest of them was at the Eight Forces realm. Zichen looked at them indifferently, and another light shadow flew out of his body. More than a dozen of them flew past like shadows. The shadow passed through their bodies in an instant. Their bodies didn't seem to be injured at all. All of them blacked out and fell to the ground dead. In the blink of an eye, a large number of extra-legal spirit demons fell. This made everyone else's expression change greatly, and fear appeared in their eyes. "He's alone. What's there to be afraid of?" A Nine Forces realm martial artist bellowed. "Kill!" As soon as he finished speaking, he leaped into the air and charged towards Zichen. Zichen swiped with one hand. Chi! A ray of light flew into the sky. This move carried an indomitable will. Mountain chopping technique. Pooh! The extraterritorial spiritual demon of the Nine Forces realm was instantly split into two. Within the same realm, Zichen was almost invincible. After killing the second Nine Forces realm martial artist, Zichen rushed forward. With his own strength, he attacked all the extra-legal spirit devils. For a moment, severed arms and limbs flew in the air, and powerful energy waves wreaked havoc everywhere. The brilliance continued to shine, and the extra-legal spirit demons in the city continued to appear. There seemed to be an endless stream of extra-legal spirit demons in the city. "Kill! We can't let him go!" A Nine Forces realm martial artist shouted, but as soon as he finished speaking, his body was split into two. Zichen was bathed in blood. He wandered around the battlefield, reaping the lives of the extra-legal spirit demons one after another. At this moment, he was like a cold-blooded harvester. Jihong stood on a mountain peak and watched this scene from afar. His eyes were full of shock. He also had too many regrets. If there were more people like him, how would the extra-legal spirit demons dare to invade? He shook his head and sighed. It was a pity that Zichen was the only one who was so strong. There were too few of them. Pooh! A head flew up. It was the head of a Nine Forces realm martial artist. he died with his eyes open. Zichen was unarmed. Wherever he went, no one could defeat him. News after news spread to Pofa City. When the experts who were in charge of the city heard it, they were all furious. How could an extra-legal spirit demon be afraid of a shadow destroyer? Kill! Until he dies of exhaustion! This was the shadow destroyer's strategy. He would kill the intruder at all costs. Therefore, more extra-legal spirit demons appeared in the city and chased after Zichen without hesitation. Almost all of them were below the 8 Forces realm. This battle was not to kill the enemy, but to exhaust him. However, Zichen was like an iron man who would never sleep. The corpses piled up around him like mountains, but his aura was still strong. In this battle, Zichen came to kill. Finally, the extra-legal spirit demons above the 8 Forces realm came together. Another encirclement, and killing began. Die! They attacked together, determined to kill Zichen. Zichen rushed forward. Shadows constantly flew out from his body. The shadows swept past their bodies, and the extra-legal spirit demons fell to the ground one after another. Buzz! The mountain chopping technique appeared frequently, killing both the enemy and the person in front. The two sides had nothing to say. There was only constant killing. Go to hell! An extra-legal spirit demon circled behind Zichen, wanting to sneak up on him. Zichen turned around instantly and struck out with his palm. The light of the rules appeared in his palm like a big net, drowning the extra-legal spirit demon. In the next moment, the extra-legal spirit demon's body was cut open by the rules. No one could stop him. The extra-legal spirit demon was almost desperate because he had never seen such a powerful shadow destroyer. After sacrificing the lives of more than 29 Forces realm cultivators, Zichen was finally injured and coughed up blood. This made the despairing crowd feel as if they had seen hope, and they once again increased their investment. Therefore, many more extra-legal spirit demons were killed. This time, Zichen moved forward as he killed. He killed his way into Dharma-shattering city alone. Here, he continued his killing spree. Just after Zichen killed his way into the city, Jihong and the female leader appeared. The two of them quickly collected the scattered spiritual rings on the ground. There were too many corpses. The two of them could only pick those of higher realms to collect. The resources in the rings would be distributed to give more spiritual casters a chance to grow. Puff! Zichen coughed up blood for the second time, and his face turned pale. This time, he had killed more than 59 Forces realm cultivators. As for those below the 9 Forces realm, there were countless of them. Buzz! A tall demonic shadow appeared behind an extra-legal spirit demon. The demonic shadow brought dark clouds with it as it charged towards Zichen. A terrifying pressure filled every corner of the area. Mountain slashing technique! Zichen used his strongest move. In an instant, the demonic shadow was split into two, and the dark clouds in the sky dispersed. At this moment, an attack landed on Zichen's back, leaving a deep wound on his back. Zichen's body swayed. Kill! More attacks came at him. Zichen gritted his teeth and charged again, killing all the extra-legal spirit demons around him. Sensing his injuries, he knew that he should leave. After all, he came here to kill the enemy and intimidate them, not to die here. Therefore, before the enemy surrounded him, Zichen swiped his finger. The space was forcefully separated by him. In front of him was endless turbulence. Oh no, don't let him escape! Amidst the exclamations, Zichen stepped forward and entered the turbulence of the Milky Way. Chapter 5191. Surrounded by a group of extra-legal spirit demons, Zichen entered the Milky Way. The Milky Way healed, and Zichen disappeared. All the extra-legal spirit demons were stunned. He actually ran into the Milky Way. Wasn't he courting death? Even the extra-legal spirit demons did not dare to enter the Milky Way now. Powerful auras kept appearing. They were the extra-legal spirit demons from the depths, and they were coming quickly. In a short while, more than 39 Forces realm cultivators had arrived. They looked at the corpses all over the ground with gloomy faces. One of them shouted, "What's going on? Why are there so many dead?" After listening to his subordinate, the other party's face turned even uglier. The people who had died here were only a small part of the total. The majority of the dead were outside. And they were all killed by one person. They walked out and saw a mountain of corpses. This time, their faces were no longer filled with anger, but with shock. They were shocked that there was such a strong person in this world. After the shock, their faces were filled with ecstasy. For such an existence to enter the Milky Way and commit suicide was obviously a good thing for them. Otherwise, if such a thing happened every few days, even if they could continuously send strong people over, they would not be able to handle it. It's good that there is such an existence here. Next, we don't have to worry about the others. From now on, kill all the ants here. The extralegal spirit demons moved out again. This time, they started to surround and kill the spiritual casters to a greater extent. Many years ago, their targets were the shadow destroyers and the soul killers. But after many years, these two races were almost extinct, so the spiritual casters became their target. During this time, a tall extralegal spirit demon returned to the depths. There was no one else here, including the spell breakers. Everything was occupied by the extralegal spirit demons. Those who lived in those buildings were all 9 Forces realm cultivators. There were hundreds of them. At the same time, there was an endless stream of extralegal spirit demons entering this world from the passageway. The leader of the extralegal spirit demons who had returned walked to the depths. This was a chaotic place. An old extralegal spirit demon was sitting cross-legged here, looking at the chaotic place in front of him. The leader of the extralegal spirit demons walked over and bowed to the old spirit demon. "How is it?" the old devil spirit asked without raising his head. "Grand Ancestor, that was a shadow destroyer. He was extremely powerful and killed dozens of our realm 9s by himself. In the end, he was injured and jumped into the Milky Way," said Outlaw Spirit Demon. "Oh?" A trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of the old spirit demon. "Entering the galaxy means certain death. Have you seen his body shatter into pieces?" The other party shook his head and said, "No, we were too late. The Milky Way had already closed." The old spirit demon's eyes flashed as he extended his hand and grabbed at the air. "Buzz!" An extralegal spirit devil of the 9 Forces realm suddenly flew over uncontrollably. His eyes were filled with fear, but he did not dare to struggle. The old spirit demon waved his hand and forcefully opened the chaotic space in front of him. A turbulent flow of stars appeared. The old spirit demon waved his hand again and threw the extralegal spirit demon into the turbulent flow of stars. Just as his body was invaded by the turbulence, his entire body instantly disintegrated. His soul and physical body both collapsed. The extralegal spirit demon only had time to let out a blood-curdling scream before he disappeared from this world. The spirit demon next to him was shocked and said, "Entering the Milky Way means certain death?" The old spirit demon said, "In theory, yes, but in reality, that might not be the case." He reached out his hand and grabbed forward. The void seemed to be pierced by his palm, and a turbulent flow appeared in his palm. The turbulent flow in his hand shone brightly. The extralegal spirit demon was stunned. The Grand Ancestor had caught a ball of turbulent flow? Why was the Grand Ancestor not affected? However, he soon discovered an abnormality. The destructive power of the Milky Way still existed, and it was destroying the Grand Ancestor's vitality. However, the Grand Ancestor's recovery speed surpassed the destruction speed of the turbulent flow. Therefore, it seemed like he was not injured at all. This is our biggest obstacle. If we can't find a way to block the turbulent flow, we won't be able to break through here. As the Grand Ancestor spoke, his breath gradually weakened. It seemed that continuously resisting the turbulent flow of stars would consume a lot of energy. The old spirit demon raised his hand and threw the turbulent flow back into the chaotic space in front of him. It's all those clans' fault. They clearly have the heavenly demon's supreme treasure from the upper realm, but they're not willing to take it out. The extralegal spirit demon said angrily. With the heavenly demon's supreme treasure protecting us, it's naturally extremely easy to break through the turbulent flow of stars. The old spirit demon smiled faintly. It's understandable that they have concerns. After all, the passage to the upper realm has been closed. Losing one heavenly demon's supreme treasure means one permanent loss. Moreover, this is the place that those ants value the most. It's normal that it's difficult to break through. We were able to break through here back then because we borrowed the power of the upper realm. He looked at the chaotic space in front of him. However, we'll have to rely on ourselves from now on. The old spirit demon's eyes flashed. As long as there's a flaw in this world, we can use it to break through the turbulent flow of stars. The extralegal spirit demon said, "What if there's no flaw?" The old spirit demon smiled. Then we can only look for the heavenly demon's supreme treasure. Zichen entered the turbulent flow of the Star River and was submerged in an instant. Unlike the extralegal spirit demon, his body did not instantly disappear into nothingness. Once again, he felt drowsy. It seemed that the turbulent flow of stars had a hypnotic effect on him. Zichen's soul power was completely suppressed and could not be released. Therefore, he did not know where he was at the moment and what was around him. He only used his eyes to look. All around him was the same turbulent flow of stars. He could not see any abnormalities. However, there was one thing that Zichen could be sure of. His body was moving. This turbulent flow of stars seemed to be flowing according to a certain trajectory. Zichen was also moving along with it. In the beginning, he tried his best to sense his surroundings. He wanted to find a power that could make him stronger. However, he could not sense it at all. Without any fresh energy, Zichen no longer looked at this unchanging turbulent flow and began to cultivate. In his mind, he deduced the heaven-severing technique. This was taught by Jihong. It was said that Gushan taught him when he returned from the immortal spells world. At that time, Gushan had already left a clone in the saber. Therefore, the Gushan in the saber might only know the mountain-severing technique. After beginning to comprehend the technique, Zichen realized that the speed of comprehension here was much faster than outside. At the same time, his comprehension of the rules of the Shadow Destroyer clan was also clearer. This was like a cultivation treasure land. It was closer to the rules. This discovery surprised and delighted him at the same time. He thought to himself, if everyone could comprehend here, wouldn't their progress be even faster? Zichen ignored the fact that everyone was here and could not stay awake. Slowly, Zichen entered a meditative state. After that, he fell into a deep sleep. In his subconscious, he was still absolutely awake. In fact, this self-awareness was already a dream in a deep sleep. His body moved along with the turbulent flow of stars and finally returned to the Milky Way. This was the starting point for him to come here, and now he was back. Chapter 5192. The strongest of the spiritual cultivators had jumped into the galaxy to commit suicide. This greatly boosted the morale of the extralegal spirit demons. Although there were people who tried to assassinate them, their combat strength was far from Zichen's. One Zichen was enough to scare the survivors. During this time, there were also some extralegal spirit demons who mocked him. If that fellow didn't enter the galaxy and just waited outside for them a few times, they would probably be so scared that they wouldn't dare to leave the city. So when they were killing, they would help spread the news of Zichen jumping into the galaxy to commit suicide. This caused the little morale of the spiritual cultivators to disappear. He really went to the galaxy. Sumingyao brought people all the way out. When Xiao Dai brought back this news, although she had expected it, her mood was very bad. This time was different from the past. Zichen went to take a gamble. The probability of success was just too low. The mood of the others was also very heavy. But at the moment, they couldn't say anything. Because this world needed Zichen. In order to reduce the number of targets, after everyone reached the periphery, they spread out and agreed to gather when something big happened. In the past, they would gather every once in a while. Everyone took the resources and hid in the periphery. Similar things were happening in other places. There were many extra-legal spirit demons, but this world was even bigger. After everyone spread out, it was difficult to find them. If the extra-legal spirit demons formed groups, the harvest would be very small. Sometimes, after a few days, they could only kill a few spirit-breaking beasts. So, they could only follow and spread out. At first, they formed groups of 5, but the effect wasn't good. Then, they continued to spread out and in the end, they formed groups of 2. There were even some who were very confident in their combat strength and acted alone. Not sure if it was because of the danger, or if this world sensed the dangerous situation brought about by the invasion of foreign enemies, it gave some help to the heavens. The speed of the spiritual cultivators breaking through had obviously sped up. Everyone's spirit was in a tense state all day long. Once they met an extra-legal spirit demon, it would be a fight to the death. If they won, they could live. If they lost, they could only die. Zichen floated in the galaxy. He constantly reminded himself to stay awake and not get lost. He felt that he had done it. In reality, his consciousness had already fallen into a deep sleep. The Milky Way flowed past. He was in the middle of the Milky Way, and his body was in contact with countless laws. Compared to the last time, the only good thing was that Zichen's heart was still beating. In his sea of consciousness, his soul power had fallen into a deep slumber, but it was not suppressed. Everything was normal. As long as Zichen's consciousness existed, he could still mobilize this power. Time passed in the galaxy. Behind a mountain wall stood a young man with a cold expression. He held a long staff tightly in his hand. The long rod was as black as ink, just like the bright black eyes of the young man. The young man held his breath. In front of him, 2 outlawed spiritual demons of the 7 Forces realm came together. One of them kicked the gravel along the way. "There's someone in this broken place?" The 2 of them didn't care if their identities would be exposed because they hadn't seen any spirit casters for 3 days. "Search around. If there's no one, turn back," the other one said indifferently. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. Like a bolt of black lightning, it charged towards the 2 of them. "Not good!" The 2 of them were shocked and immediately mobilized their own power. The young man who rushed out held a long black staff and smashed it down. Boom! With a loud tremor, one of the outlawed spiritual demons of the 7 Forces realm was sent flying by the staff. "Spiritual spell!" Seeing this, the other one immediately attacked the young man. 1. At this moment, a strong aura suddenly surged around the young man. Behind him, a tall figure appeared. It was a giant ape. It was dozens of feet tall, and its eyes were emitting a blood-red light. The young man's already strong aura became even more violent at this moment. The long staff in his hand began to tremble violently, as if it couldn't withstand the current power. Boom! Another staff smashed down, and the second outlawed spiritual demon's attack was broken. Then, his body exploded under the staff, instantly killing a spirit caster of the same level. Seeing this, the expression of the outlawed spiritual demon who was sent flying by the staff changed drastically. He turned around and ran. He had also heard that in these years, there were some powerful beings among the spirit casters who could suppress those of the same level. Obviously, this strange guy in front of him was one of those powerful beings. The young man tapped his foot and jumped up high like a monkey. The black staff in his hand smashed down. Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard, and the second outlawed spiritual demon was killed. Landing on the ground, the giant ape behind the young man disappeared. After coming to this world and transforming into a human body, the devil ape quickly cleaned up the battlefield and disappeared. After a few decades of cultivation, he had advanced to the 7 Forces realm. Zichen felt very lucky that he hadn't lost his way until now. However, it seemed that he hadn't improved much. His body was still spinning, and countless rules were washing over him. In front of him, there seemed to be countless rays of light circulating. He saw many rules. From simple to complicated, from weak to strong, but he didn't know how to use these rules. Time was still passing. Finally, one day, Zichen's sleeping soul began to wake up. Some rules entered his soul and were absorbed by it. At first, it was just one, but slowly, more and more rules were added. Just as his soul was absorbing these rules, Zichen's heart also showed signs of abnormality. As his heart beat, it began to absorb the rules of the galaxy around him. He didn't have to absorb all the rules. He was like an exquisite gourmet who was facing countless delicious dishes in front of him. He didn't have to take a bite of all of them. Instead, he was carefully selecting and then tasting them. After absorbing these rules, Zichen's heart and body were gradually assimilated under the rules. The extraordinary power that was once contained in his heart was completely broken down into his body when he devoured the rules. The same thing happened to his soul. It could be said that under the rules of the galaxy, the heaven's secret stone was disappearing. It had completely become a part of Zichen's soul and no longer appeared in a special form. Or rather, it had disappeared. Hundreds of years had passed, and the outlawed spiritual demons still hadn't found a way to break through the galaxy. Moreover, after many years of guerrilla warfare, the weak spiritual casters of the past survived in the cracks, and many experts appeared. It could be said that the suppression of the outlawed spiritual demon for many years not only didn't destroy them, but also made them stronger. The existence in the depths finally couldn't wait any longer. They found the heavenly demon's supreme treasure and decided to forcefully break through the galaxy. However, before that, they wanted to kill all the spiritual casters in this place. All the outlawed spiritual demons were mobilized. Under the lead of many powerful existences, they began to carry out a blanket encirclement and annihilation of the spiritual casters. Just as the encirclement and annihilation was happening, in the galaxy, Zichen, who was constantly devouring the rules, slowed down. It was as if he had reached a saturation point. Chapter 5193. The entire extra-legal spirit demon army was mobilized and started a carpet search of this area. This was fatal to the spiritual casters. They started to hide, but the area they could survive in was shrinking. On a battlefield, the extra-legal spirit demons and the spiritual casters finally met. Roar! There was an angry roar. A giant ape appeared, with a strong aura surging around it. The giant ape held a black staff and smashed it at an extra-legal spirit demon in front of it. With a loud bang, the extra-legal spirit demon flew backward. In the next moment, 2 rays of light flew out of the giant ape's eyes and pierced the extra-legal spirit demon's body like sharp blades. A 9 Forces Realm cultivator was killed on the spot. Amitabha! Behind the monk, a golden Buddha's shadow appeared. It had a benevolent face and looked like a real Buddha. The monk held 2 swords. Surrounded by Buddhist power, the 2 swords crossed the body of an extra-legal spirit demon. Puff! The extra-legal spirit demon's body was split into several pieces. The monk's swords were not stained with blood. He immediately flew back. In the 2 battles, the spiritual casters had won. At this moment, a 3rd person walked out from the extra-legal spirit demon's side. On the spiritual caster's side, Zhang Haotian's figure disappeared. After a while, the head of the extra-legal spirit demon flew up, causing waves of exclamations. Facing the encirclement of the extra-legal spirit demons, everyone gathered together. After so many years, everyone had advanced to the 9 Forces realm and reached the peak of this world. They, who could only run away in the face of the extra-legal spirit demons, finally had the strength to fight. Su Mengyao stood there. Her position was the closest to the front. The others stood behind her on both sides. Su Mengyao was the leader of this battle. Miao Miao, 8-headed, Qi Yan, Bone Eagle, Qiong Qi, and other existences were also here. Jihong, the Killer Clan, Xiao Wei, and the other shadow destroyers had also reached the 9 Forces realm. It could be said that this team was the main force against the extra-legal spirit demons. They had caused the extra-legal spirit demons to suffer heavy losses. Zhang Haotian walked back, and 8-headed walked out. Back then, he was an extraordinary existence. When they arrived here, the demon race appeared in their human forms. Their original bodies had become something similar to their innate supernatural powers. The original body of the 8 heads appeared behind him. The 8 heads on the huge body looked exceptionally ferocious. There was no suspense in this battle. Cheers erupted from the spirit caster's side. After so many years, they finally had the strength to fight. As for the extra-legal spirit devil, none of the 9 forces realm cultivators who came out could return alive. This affected their morale. In front of the extra-legal spirit demon stood an old man. His expression did not change much in the face of the death of his subordinate. If there was anything, it was just a bit of an accident. There was no such thing as shock. The battle was still going on. The old man watched quietly. He watched as the spirit casters displayed their might, and watched as the extra-legal spirit demons were killed one after another. Interesting. No wonder they can influence the upper realm. The old man sighed with emotion. These people were able to grow to such an extent in an extremely short period of time. It was truly amazing. He waved his hand and said, "Continue." He did not care about the death of the spirit demon. The river of stars flowed, and countless laws flashed. In this world, the most mysterious thing was the Milky Way. It was the origin of this world, and it was also the final protection of this world. On this day, someone emerged from the Milky Way. It was Zichen, who had been asleep for many years. He had finally awakened. Being in the Milky Way, he no longer felt uncomfortable. His hands slid, and the Milky Way flowed on his fingertips. So, this is the essence of the Milky Way. Zichen's figure rose into the air and left the Milky Way. In the next moment, countless laws gathered towards him and manifested into a long robe of laws. The long robe of laws was colorful and dazzling. Zichen felt that it was too dazzling, so he withdrew all the laws contained in it. In the end, it turned into a white robe that was spotless. The white robe Zichen went ashore and moved forward. Poof! The bone eagle tore the enemy apart and turned around to walk back. There were already more than a dozen corpses around, all of which belonged to the extra-legal spirit demons. Until now, they had not won a single battle. The spirit caster's morale was extremely high. On the other hand, the extra-legal spirit demon's side fell into a slump. At this moment, the old man walked out. He looked at Su Mengyao in front of him and said, "You're the leader? Let them come together." Su Mengyao raised her eyebrows slightly. The old man gave her an unfathomable feeling. "You!" The devil ape glared at the old man. In the next moment, he walked out. His pace gradually quickened, and the true body of the devil ape appeared behind him, smashing forward with a rod. The old man waved his hand and directly tore through space. He grabbed a mass of turbulence and threw it at the devil ape. Bang! The devil ape was hit by the turbulence and was instantly sent flying. Everyone's expression changed. They did not expect the old man to be so strong. "Grand Ancestor!" Behind him, the extra-legal spirit demons cheered. The old man frowned and said in surprise, "It didn't destroy you?" As he spoke, the old man raised his hand and grabbed the turbulence from the void again and threw it forward. Everyone was hit by the turbulence one after another, and their bodies were constantly sent flying. Some were injured, and some were coughing up blood. The originally tyrannical crowd was no match for an old man. However, the old man was even more surprised. He originally thought that the turbulence could kill everyone, but he did not expect that it could only kill the extra-legal spirit demons. It was ineffective against the spirit casters. He shook his head and said, "It seems that this skill was practiced in vain." The old man looked at the crowd in front of him again and said, "In that case, I won't play with you anymore. Let's end this quickly." A long saber appeared in the old man's hand. The moment the long saber appeared, the wind and clouds changed, as if a force that did not belong to this world had descended. Everyone, including Su Mengyao, felt their hearts tighten. "Sister?" Lin Shui looked at Su Mengyao. "What power is this?" Su Mengyao closed her eyes as if she was deducing something. In the next moment, she opened her eyes and said, Full defense! With that, she stepped back. The devil ape, the monk, Zhang Haotian, and the others immediately walked forward. They lined up in a row, facing the old man with the saber. The old man slashed down, and the saber arc extended horizontally. He was also conceited. He wanted to cut everyone in half with this slash. The devil ape and others shouted and activated all their strength, blocking in front of them with their weapons. The saber arc swept past, and the weapons in everyone's hands were instantly cut in half. Everyone coughed up blood and flew backward. All of them were seriously injured. Such combat strength was shocking. Su Mengyao said again. Continue. Her expression was calm, without the slightest ripple. So Ji Hong and the others walked forward. They were 100% obedient to this leader. In some ways, she was even more qualified than Zichen was back then. Qi Yan, Ba Shou, and the other existences followed. Even if they knew that they were no match for the old man, even if they knew that this was a situation of certain death, they still walked forward. The old man had already slashed down for the second time. Ji Hong and the others also flew backward without any resistance. One by one, they coughed up blood and were injured, and their weapons were all broken. The situation was reversed, and the extra-legal spirit demons began to exclaim, their morale soaring. From the looks of it, with just a few slashes, the spirit spellcasters would all die. Lin Shui said worriedly. Sister, we can only block 3 attacks at most. What should we do next? Su Mengyao, who had always been expressionless, suddenly smiled. This kind of power that does not belong to this world naturally needs someone who transcends this world to deal with it. At this moment, the old man laughed and slashed for the 3rd time. Everyone was anxious, because no one was blocking in front. Then wouldn't this slash cut Su Mengyao and Lin Shui in half? At this moment, a light shadow suddenly appeared. As if teleporting, he stood in front of Su Mengyao. Looking at the incoming saber arc, he stretched out 2 fingers. Chapter 5194. The blade arc attack was caught by someone, and stopped moving forward. The terrifying energy contained in it was quickly being destroyed. The enthusiastic cheers from the extra-legal spiritual demons disappeared. Everyone looked in front of them, at the person who caught the arc of the blade. They widened their eyes in shock. How could he be so strong? In some people's minds, distant memories suddenly appeared. They were memories from hundreds of years ago, or perhaps even thousands of years ago. A shadow destroyer killed his way into shattering Lost City by himself, killed dozens of Nine Forces realm cultivators, and then jumped into the Milky Way to commit suicide. It's him! That person from back then! Didn't he jump into the Milky Way and die? Exclamations came from the extra-legal spiritual demons. It's the Lord! Lord Zichen! The Lord is back! Excited exclamations came from the spiritual spellcaster's side. Everyone was excited. Lin Shui and the others finally understood why Su Mengyao still asked them to defend instead of running away in such a dangerous situation. It turned out that Zichen was back. They could not sense it, only Su Mengyao could. It's you? The old man looked at Zichen with a solemn expression. It's me! The blade arc between Zichen's fingers completely disappeared. The old man's eyes flashed. He reached out his left hand, grabbed a mass of turbulence from the void, and threw it at Zichen. Zichen stood there, motionless. The turbulence approached and was about to hit Zichen's face. Suddenly, the turbulence turned on its own and circled around Zichen, then flew toward the old man. At the same time, the void shattered silently. Mass after mass of turbulence appeared and merged into it. The small mass of turbulence turned into a huge mass of light when it was about to reach the old man. The old man shouted and slashed down with his blade. Chi! The turbulence was split into 2. It did not disappear, but flew to both sides. Crack! Crack! The severed turbulence exploded, turning into small clusters of turbulence that fell on the bodies of the other extra-legal spirit devils. In an instant, there were miserable howls. One by one, the extra-legal spiritual demons died in the turbulence. On the spirit caster's side, everyone's faces were filled with shock. The turbulence had previously landed on their side. Although they were injured, there was no danger of death. Why was this happening now? Hearing the screams behind him, the old man's expression changed. Zichen looked at him. You can leave now. The old man gripped his saber tightly and said indifferently, We have countless experts here, hundreds of times more than you. What do you have? Zichen said indifferently. I'm enough. Then Zichen glanced at the sky. Boom! The sky shattered. Countless turbulent flows fell from above like the 9 heavens, drowning the extra-legal spiritual devils behind. Screams of agony began to rise and fall. The extra-legal spiritual devils struggled, trying to escape from the turbulence, but it was impossible. Those who were outside the turbulence quickly retreated, their eyes filled with infinite fear. It was too terrifying. With just a glance, the sky shattered, and turbulence descended. No wonder he said that it was enough to have him in this world. This was not conceit, but confidence. With such a method, no matter how many extra-legal spiritual devils there were, they would still die. The death of countless extra-legal spiritual devils behind him caused the old man to fall into a state of rage. He held a long saber in his hand and charged towards Zichen. At this moment, he still dared to attack Zichen because he was not afraid of the turbulence. Therefore, even if Zichen used the turbulence to deal with him, he would only be asking for humiliation. Zichen looked at the old man who was rushing over and slowly extended his palm. The old man laughed mockingly. You still want to use the turbulence? He slashed down with his saber. The moment the blade touched Zichen's finger, it hovered there. Countless rules appeared from all directions, trapping both Dao Feng and the old man. There was no turbulence, only rules. All the rules of this world. At this moment, Zichen was the ruler of the world. As long as the living beings of this world followed the rules, they would look up to Zichen. The old man wanted to struggle, but it was useless. Only the long saber made a whining sound as if it was about to break through the rules. The long saber did not belong to this world, nor did it abide by the rules of this world. Zichen reached out his hand, wanting to grab the long saber. Buzz! Suddenly, the long saber trembled and broke through the suppression of the rules. Then, it brought the old man far away. Zichen frowned slightly, but he still gave up the idea of chasing after the other party. He looked at the terrified extra-legal spiritual devils in the distance and said, This time, consider it a lesson for your clan. As soon as his words fell, the void shattered. The turbulence of the galaxy fell from above like a torrent, drowning all the extra-legal spiritual devils. Screams filled the air. At this point, other than an old man, none of the extra-legal spiritual devils who came here were alive. Such a loss exceeded that of the previous battles, including the world-ending battle many years ago. Because this was a power that transcended this world. As long as this power existed, no extra-legal spiritual devil could invade. The spirit casters behind were all incomparably shocked. Just as Zichen had said, he was more than enough. One person could wipe out a clan. The world in front of them returned to normal. All the extra-legal spiritual devils were dead. Countless cheers came from behind. This time, it was a real victory. And as long as Zichen was here, this world would never be threatened again. Zichen turned around and looked at the excited crowd behind him. He looked at Su Mengyao and smiled. Su Mengyao was also smiling. But the two of them knew very well how much hardship, helplessness, despair, and helplessness were in this smile. If it were not for luck, the result would be unimaginable. Zichen said, Next, let's reorganize the people and return to Dharma-shattering city. Endless cheers. At night, a bonfire rose. Zichen, Jihong, Su Mengyao, and the woman of the Slayer clan gathered together. Jihong asked, What are you going to do next? Zichen said, The extra-legal spiritual devils may not be satisfied. After their counterattack, we'll talk about other things. The leader of the Slayer clan asked, Can you connect the channel? Zichen said, I'm not sure about the immortal spell world yet, But it's not a problem to connect the channel to the all-spirit world. The crisis of the extra-legal spiritual devils had been resolved. Next, Zichen would use the Black Tower as the foundation to connect the two worlds. By then, more people would come to this world and use the rules here to achieve higher realms and battle strength. As for whether the immortal spell world could be reopened in the future, it would have to wait until there were enough strong masters in this world. After so many years, the group returned to Dharma's shattering city. There were no more extra-legal spiritual devils here, but there were still some spellbreakers, but there were very few of them. When Zichen and the others returned, these spellbreakers were captured. It was Kant and the others. Zichen was very surprised. He thought these people had died in the battle. It was naturally better that they were not dead. Next, Zichen would not allow others to attack Kant and the others. Chapter 5195. These spellbreakers were the survivors of the Great War. After so many years, many of their realms had increased, but their realms did not seem to have increased by much. For example, Kant was only at the 7th strength realm. However, it was because of this realm that they were able to survive and not be chased to the battlefield by those extra-legal spirit demons. This was also Kant's order. Everyone deliberately suppressed their realms. It was all for today. Seeing Zichen again, everyone was extremely excited. Even Phoebe, Sanglali, and the others who hated Zichen to death back then were crying tears of joy. Compared to those inhumane extra-legal spirit demons, they were more willing to deal with the reasonable Zichen. Spellbreaker City was empty. All kinds of resources had been used up long ago. The entire city had many things to do. Everyone began to busy themselves with their own duties. Zichen went into the depths alone and walked into the light screen. The extra-legal spirit demons had all run away, but the passage did not disappear. It was still there. Zichen looked at the passage in front of him and could not help but smile. He understood what the extra-legal spirit demons meant. It was just that he obviously did not want to go back. The reason the old man was able to escape was because of the long saber he had on him. The long saber was not suppressed by the rules of this world. Zichen was not sure how many such treasures there were on the other side of the passage. It was better to be vigilant. He sat cross-legged and waited. Perhaps the extra-legal spirit demons were also waiting at the other end of the passage. Zichen returned. Su Mengyao was still the leader here. She arranged everyone in an orderly manner. Those mineral veins had to be explored again, and then mined again. All kinds of resources also had to be gathered again. This was a complicated and long process. Because this time, the spellbreakers were in charge of it themselves. During this period, there would naturally be some conflicts. After all, the crisis was resolved, and the people's hearts would fluctuate. Fortunately, the problems were not big. Zichen had been guarding by the side of the passage. He did not take the initiative to enter, nor did he forcefully seal it. Both sides seemed to be in a tug-of-war, competing to see who was more patient. Finally, the extra-legal spirit demons could not take it anymore. A flash of saber light came from the other end of the passageway, carrying boundless killing intent. Zichen's body disappeared into thin air. The blade swept past the place where he was sitting cross-legged, and a low peak was split into two. The old man walked out of the passage. He was clad in armor, and held a long saber in his hand. He looked at Zichen indifferently. "I overestimated you. I thought you would go over." Boom! Zichen glanced at the old man. The place where the old man was standing immediately collapsed. Endless turbulence appeared and submerged the old man's body. Without any superfluous words, they fought as soon as they met. The old man roared, "These turbulent flows can't hurt me at all." His armor glowed as he walked out of the turbulence. The turbulent flow of stars didn't affect him at all. Zichen waved his hand again. This time, he mobilized the star river law. Countless rule force descended from the sky and landed on the old man. It was as if a giant hand had gripped him tightly. "Ah!" The old man roared into the sky. An aura that did not belong to this world was released from his armor. He wanted to forcefully break free from the suppression of the rule force. Zichen walked forward slowly. With every step he took, the rule force of heaven and earth would strengthen. The rule force fell on his body like rain, affecting the old man's chi circulation. "Go to hell!" the old man roared again. The long saber in his hand slashed horizontally, and a saber blade like a waterfall went straight for Zichen. Zichen clenched his fist. Infinite light bloomed from his fist, enveloping the rule force of this world. Boom! With one punch, the saber blade directly collapsed. Seeing this, the old man's expression changed drastically. There was a hint of disbelief in his eyes. At this moment, Zichen's fist arrived and smashed directly between the old man's eyebrows. The old man staggered and retreated dozens of feet. During this time, the rule force kept falling and imprisoning him. "Damn it!" Blood flowed from the corner of the old man's mouth. Looking at Zichen, who continued to move forward, he fully activated his armor. The armor shone and completely enveloped his body. Zichen's second punch arrived. Like a thunderbolt, it landed on the old man's body and exploded with a rumbling sound. Then, one punch after another. With every punch, heaven and earth would erupt with a violent roar. Rumbling sounds could be heard. The old man had no strength to fight back at all. If not for the protection, the old man would have died hundreds of times. But now, the light of the armor was rapidly dimming under the suppression of the rule force and Zichen's attacks. The old man panicked a little and slashed down with his saber again. Chi! Zichen's body was split into two. However, he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he quickly turned around and slashed down again. It was just an afterimage. "Your reaction is very fast, but your speed is too slow." Zichen's fist hit the old man's glabella. Boom! The old man was sent flying backward. He was no match for him at all. Zichen said, "It's about time." As soon as he finished speaking, a sword appeared in his hand. As energy was injected into it, the long sword erupted with a dazzling light. Zichen slashed down with his sword. It was as if countless restrictions had appeared and pressed forward. The light on the old man's armor was instantly suppressed. Then, the sword light flashed. A clear sword mark appeared on the heavenly fiend's supreme treasure. This time, the old man's eyes were filled with fear. He formed a seal with his hands and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His fingers moved in the blood essence, forming a pattern. Buzz! Blood light exploded. Before the second sword arrived, the old man's figure disappeared. The passage twisted and the other party escaped. Zichen turned around and looked at the passage in front of him. He threw the long sword in his hand out. The long sword turned into a flying sword and entered the passage, following the old man to another world. A tyrannical aura erupted in an instant, and countless restrictions spread out. A murderous intent filled the air. The killing formation was wreaking havoc. In an instant, screams rang out continuously. The countless extra-legal spirits and demons guarding the surroundings were instantly dismembered by these restrictions and formations. After flying in a circle in front, the flying sword hit the old man's chest and then turned back. The old man spat out a mouthful of blood and watched as the flying sword escaped. He was powerless to stop it. With a flash of light, the long sword flew back. It was the Tao sword. The true origin of this sword came from the immortal arts world. Many years ago, it was the foundation of a world's most valuable treasure. Although the disappearance of that world affected the grade of the Tao sword, it was still an extraordinary item. Even now, it was not inferior to the heavenly demon treasure. Zichen stood there and looked at the passage in front of him silently. After a while, a powerful energy came from the passage. Then, the passage began to twist and finally disappeared. Zichen did not need to do anything. The extra-legal spirits and demons had cut off the passage on their own. Because even the Grand Ancestor could not defeat the strongest of the extra-legal spirits, let alone the others. At this point, the threat of the extra-legal spirits and demons had been eliminated. Zichen walked out from the depths and went to find Jihong to tell them about this. Jihong said emotionally, You are now Gushan before he entered the immortal arts world. The most powerful person in the world. Fully deserving. Zichen did not care much about this. After all, it was just a title. Therefore, Su Mengyao arranged for people to enter the depths. There were some resources inside. Among them, the Shadow Destroyers were the first batch. Because this was where they used to live. After settling some trivial matters, Zichen went into the Black Tower. When he returned, Su Mengyao gave the tower to him. Chapter 5196. Zichen asked the woman for advice on how to connect the two worlds. Although he had the Black Tower, he couldn't personally bring people over every time. Moreover, entering and exiting this place, even if he deliberately whispered, would cause the woman to feel impatient. Zichen was right to ask, and the woman quickly came up with a plan. She didn't fall out with him, nor did she show any impatience. That was to use the Black Tower as the foundation to forcefully connect the two worlds. However, the entrance and exit this time wasn't on the 7th floor, but on the 1st floor. That was the initial step, and the next step was to connect the two worlds with coordinates. This would take a long time, and it was also a huge project. However, Zichen had plenty of time. Zichen returned to the Tianwu continent. After so many years, he had returned. After descending, he sensed the aura of many Heaven's Choice Realm cultivators. Back then, Zichen had spread the news that as long as one reached the Heaven's Choice Realm, they could come to the Tianwu continent. He would bring everyone to the Lawbreaker realm. Unfortunately, something had happened, and he hadn't returned for many years. After returning, Zichen immediately sent a message to Jolina. Jolina was extremely excited when she heard Zichen's voice. After so many years, with the supply of countless resources, she had successfully reached the Heaven's Choice realm. Not long after, everyone in the world knew of Zichen's return. The Tianwu world was operating normally. After Zichen asked briefly, he told Jolina that they could gather the Heaven's Choice realm cultivators and leave. The passage between the two worlds had been successfully opened. In the Tianwu world, the Heaven's Choice realm cultivators who had waited for many years excitedly entered the passage. They didn't know that on the other end of the passage, what awaited them was a new beginning. With everyone's combined efforts, the passage between the worlds had almost been completely opened. This caused the laws of heaven and earth of the entire 10,000 spirit world to gradually merge together. The cultivation realms also became unified with each other. The various races could freely cross worlds to cultivate. Without the ambitious people like Seuss, the development of the 10,000 spirit world was going well. Some worlds were lacking in resources, so the experts among them took the initiative to leave and go to the trial realm to seek opportunities. Now that the 10,000 worlds were connected, they could enter the trial realm without the demon realm. Because there was no way to connect to the immortal Tao realm, the Guardian's mission here was almost over. Therefore, after Zichen discussed with Old Man Black and Old Man White, he opened the door for the monitors. If they wanted to, they could also head straight to the Lawbreaker realm and cultivate there. Is everyone in the immortal spells world an expert? After everything was arranged, Zichen asked the question that had been bothering him. Balak said, "That's not the case. There are also some very ordinary existences. Of course, these are very ordinary, but they are all amazing experts here." To Balak, the immortal techniques world was a very long time ago. It was so long ago that his memories were already distorted. The two of them had witnessed the rise of Gushan, and they had even seen the experts of the current era before Gushan. After that, the Saint Spirit world encountered all kinds of unforeseen events. Although many geniuses appeared, they all disappeared in the long river of history. Until the appearance of Zichen, who was fortunate enough to achieve Gushan's achievements. For example, even if we are in the immortal spells world, our true battle strength is not as good as yours now, Balak said. The Lawbreaker realm is located in the middle of the 10,000 spirits world and the immortal spells world. It's like a special transition zone. Back then, Heaven's chosen realm cultivators could enter the immortal spells world directly. But if they go to the Lawbreaker realm, their battle strength will be higher when they enter the immortal spells world in the future. Balak thought for a while and said, "The path of spiritual cultivation, no matter where it is, has to be walked in the end." Seeing that Ziethen was very curious about the immortal spells world, Balak asked, "Have you found a way to open the immortal spells world?" Ziethen said, "Not yet, but I think there is a way to try." Balak said, "If it really works, I suggest not to try it lightly." Ziethen looked at Balak. Balak said, "The passageway will not close for no reason. The immortal spells world must be in great danger. So before opening the passageway, try to accumulate some strength." Ziethen had told Jihong about this before. If they really wanted to find a way to enter the immortal spells world, they must have a large number of 9 forces realm cultivators. Only then could they be at ease. Even if they were to go to war, having more people was also an advantage. After chatting with Balak, Ziethen thought of a way, or rather, a direction. That day, he returned to Dharma Breaker City. The monk and the others had already reached the 9 forces realm. If they continued to cultivate, there was almost no possibility of growth. So they did what they could hear. Besides Sumeng Yao, Ziethen called them all over. Everyone looked at Ziethen. "All of you go to the trial realm and use the passageway there to enter the void." Seeing their puzzled expressions, Ziethen explained, "In the void, there are many broken worlds. You should know that. Go to those broken worlds and try your luck." Back then, the Tao sword that Ziethen had obtained could even cut open the heavenly demon ultimate treasure of the unshackled spiritual demons. It could be seen that the items there were extraordinary. Or rather, they were items from the immortal spells world. Although some were broken, they could still exert some power. So before the passageway opened, they tried to find more items from the immortal spells world. This way, even if they faced danger in the immortal spells world in the future, they would have some ability to protect themselves. During this time, Ziethen specially reminded everyone not to get close to the Milky Way vortex. Not everyone was able to wake up after entering the abyss of life. So everyone left. Ziethen began to connect the passageway between the 2 worlds. Like an old bull, he worked diligently. Time passed. In a flash, 100 years had passed. Ziethen's completion rate was less than 1/5. In these 100 years, the number of Heaven's Choice realm cultivators who came from the Tianwu world to the Dharma Breaker world had exceeded 20,000. However, this number would slowly decrease. After all, it was extremely difficult to advance to the Heaven's Choice realm. The second 100 years had passed. The number had decreased to 10,000. This number surprised Ziethen. But thinking about it carefully, it was understandable. Now that the 10,000 worlds were connected, one would appear in each world every 100 years. The number would exceed 10,000. 100 years after another. In the 700th year, Ziethen finally successfully opened the passageway between the 2 worlds. Next, there was no need for the Black Tower to pass through. As long as he entered the transportation array, he would be able to smoothly reach the 2 worlds. Ziethen could finally rest. He put away the passageway that the Black Tower had built. After some hesitation, Ziethen went to find the woman living on the 7th floor. She seemed to have expected Ziethen to come. When she saw him, she said, "You want to open the door to the immortal spells world?" Chapter 5197. Ziethen shook his head when he saw the anticipation in the woman's eyes. The woman was unhappy. "If you don't want to open the passage, why did you come to me? Chat? Do we know each other?" Ziethen said. "I want to know how to open it in advance. If I need to make preparations, I'll do it earlier." The woman said calmly. "The Black Tower is the passage. You don't need to prepare. If you're willing, I can open it for you now." Ziethen was very surprised by this answer. It was unbelievable. For many years, countless people had tried to find the passage to the immortal spell world, but none succeeded. Lei Zhenke had even colluded with others to scheme against Saint Ziethen and annihilate his own people for a set of coordinates that did not even exist. But now, the woman said the Black Tower was the passage. So simple? What's so strange about that? The woman said impatiently. Gushan went to the immortal spell world and came back. He must have left a way out. Otherwise, how are you going to go up? Would he really seal all of you up and make you unable to leave for eternity? Zichen nodded and turned to leave. Hey! Seeing Zichen about to leave, the woman suddenly shouted. With your current strength, you can enter the immortal spell world. When Gushan entered the immortal spell world, he wasn't as strong as you are now. Zichen said. Let's wait for a while. Let's wait until this world is fully prepared. I believe that Senior Gushan sealed this place back then for the same reason. With that, Zichen left. The woman was left alone. She stood there forlornly. After knowing the way to leave, Zichen had an idea. Next, he would cultivate the Nine Powers realm. When Gushan suddenly descended and closed the passage between the two worlds, he left behind the Black Tower. He hoped that one day, when this world was strong enough, he could open the passage and enter the immortal spell world. Zichen walked outside Shattering Dharma City and started to ask for directions. He wanted to find as many resources as he could. Next, he didn't do it for himself. He just wanted more Nine Powers realm cultivators to appear in this world. Gushan had planned to do so back then. But he didn't know that the Saint Spirit realm was in chaos. After countless years, a true number one had finally appeared. It was only now that everything was on the right track. After such a long time, he wondered if the people above had persisted until now. Zichen could understand why the woman was so anxious. Although Miao Miao didn't say much, from her words, he could guess that the relationship between this woman and Gushan was not shallow. The relationship between the woman and Miao Miao was extremely bad. Zichen didn't know what was going on, nor did he try to find out. However, he clearly would not enter the immortal spell world rashly. Over the next few decades, Zichen discovered a black stone vein and a killing crystal vein. He sent a message to Xiaowei about the Blackstone mine, and she sent someone to investigate and mine it. At Zichen's current level, all the resources in this world were useless to him. When he discovered the Kill Crystal mine, he called Yuan Shao over and let him mine it. Perhaps, there would be other members of the Slaying clan who could be revived. Zichen's slaying spirit had always been in the Kill Crystal mine that he first discovered, and it was still constantly absorbing the killing intent within. One day, Zichen unexpectedly saw a river that came from a mountain stream. This surprised him. Because this world originally only had endless galaxies and very little vegetation. There were almost no real rivers. But now, it seemed different. Walking past the mountain stream, Zichen saw a large patch of green grass, which made him stunned. The first time he saw such plants was when he followed Eugene to the depths of Pofa City. He looked up at the sky. It seemed that the rules of this world were gradually recovering. As expected, as he kept moving forward, Zichen saw more plants and some bright flowers. This world was returning to normal. Until one day, Zichen saw a small beast. As the first living creature in this world with complete rules, it could be called an ancestor in the future. Zichen didn't destroy a mutated beast that could be called an ancestor in the future just for himself. As he continued forward, he didn't gain much. But the spiritual energy in this world was obviously more abundant. In the end, Zichen saw a patch of green that extended to the end of his vision, connecting with the blue sky. The rules of this world were completely complete. Pofa City was no longer divided into inside and outside. Other than that, there were many cities built here for the spiritual cultivators who came from the 10,000 spirit world to live in. Where there were people, there would naturally be Jianghu. There were city lords in the cities, and there were also some forces that fought for benefits. Regarding this, Su Mengyao, as the chief manager, didn't forcefully interfere. Appropriate competition was beneficial for the growth of one's realm, as long as it wasn't too excessive. The monk and the others didn't return. They stayed in the void, looking for some opportunities. The 10,000 spirit world had been completely connected, and there were almost no secrets to speak of. But there was a sky beyond heaven that no one had discovered. This place was even more mysterious than the Pofa world. There were 3 people and 1 beast that had been searching for this place for a long time. The person in the lead was wearing a black robe. He was handsome, but his expression was a little cold. If someone was here, they would definitely recognize him. Zichen, the strongest person in the world. His name had spread throughout the 10,000 spirit world, and there was no one who didn't know him. He was indeed Zichen. But he wasn't that Zichen. It was a little contradictory. It wasn't contradictory. My lord, after so many years you still haven't found her? The person standing on the left of Zichen asked. The person standing on the right was holding a small beast. He smiled. Lady, you're in a hurry? Are you thinking of your little lover? Call me Lady. The person on the left turned around. You changed your name to Lei Tianshi, but I didn't. Lei Tianshi smiled. So you have to thank me. If I didn't change this name, would the Ling race have the time and place? Saying this, Lei Tianshi looked at the small beast in his arms. Shui Wu, don't you think so? Shui Wu whimpered a few times, seemingly very dissatisfied. Lei Tianshi said, It's just that we didn't greet each other, we'll meet again. Lei Tianshi seemed to be unsure, so he asked again. My lord, is that so? Zichen, who was walking in front, said, It's not a big problem. His voice was calm, but it was a little cold. He used to be Zichen, the commander of the Lei clan. We seem to be moving in the void, but we've actually crossed countless dimensions. Zichen looked at the void in front of him. If we want to find that place, other than strength, we also need some luck. Then, there was a slight change in his cold expression. It seems that our luck is pretty good. After saying that, Saint Zichen took a step forward and disappeared into the void. Lei Tianshi and Lei Di quickly followed. They appeared in a place called Heavens Beyond. This place wasn't big, only a few 100 feet wide. There was an altar in the center. Saint Zichen looked at the altar in front of him and said, The coordinates that Lei Jinke wanted back then are here. Both of them were shocked. This was the passage to the immortal spell realm? Zichen walked to the altar. However, even if he can get here, he won't be able to open it. Lei Tianshi and Lei Di stood on the left and right. Zichen nodded and said, All right. Lei Tianshi said, Are we leaving just like that? Should we greet that little Lord Zichen? There's no need. Gushan left 2 paths. Zichen looked up at the sky. If he can get there, we'll meet. Both of them nodded. Lei Tianshi handed Shui Wu over to Zichen. Shui Wu looked at Zichen with fear. Although both of them looked the same, their personalities were completely different. This person was very cold, and his words and actions were very cold. Zichen was very gentle and approachable. Perhaps that was why he only had Lei Tian and Lei Di by his side. In this world, there were only 3 lonely people. On the other hand, Zichen had countless friends. Lei Tianshi and Lei Di flew to the altar at the same time. Both of them turned into laws. Only the laws of heaven and earth and Gushan boundary could open this passage. In the next moment, the altar shone brightly. Like a sword of light, it shot into the sky. Chapter 5198. The plot needs to be sorted out, so I won't be updating today. Thunder Warrior has no updates today. It is currently in your hands, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5199. Zichen returned to the Tianwu continent. Everything was normal here. Because the passage to the Lawbreaker world was placed here, the Tianwu continent became more and more prosperous. If the Saint Spirit world had become the core of the 10,000 Spirit world, then the Tianwu continent was the core of the Saint Spirit world. With Zichen's title as the strongest person in the 10,000 Spirit world, the Tianwu continent was the safest place in the world. Everyone gathered here, and all the experts also came here. Zichen was very satisfied with the development of the Tianwu world. The only regret was that he couldn't completely move this world to the Lawbreaker world. Su Mengyao also returned. In the Lawbreaker world, dozens of cities had been built, and there would be more in the future. Everything was going according to plan, and there was no need for her to supervise. This time, she could relax after returning to the Tianwu continent. Therefore, she followed Zichen and began to tour the 10,000 spirit world, looking at the scenery. As for Wang Xian'er and the others, they were still in the void. The monk, who had been in the void for countless years, saw a palm-sized fragment. At first, he just glanced at it unintentionally. But in the next moment, the monk felt a familiar aura. He walked in. He saw a dilapidated ancient Buddhist temple. The world was filled with Buddhist power, as if cicadas were singing. The monk's eyes lit up. This kind of place was very rare, so he immediately entered the Buddhist temple. He saw a Buddha with angry eyes holding a Buddhist monk's knife. The monk stood in front of the Buddha silently, as if he had fallen into meditation. After an unknown period of time, the monk put his palms together and chanted a Buddhist chant. Amitabha! Boom! The Buddha collapsed, and the Buddhist monk's knife flew toward the monk. The Buddhist power that filled this world also dissipated. The monk bowed sincerely again, in a good mood. After so many years, he finally had a weapon that he could use. Similar scenes were happening in other places in the void. It had been more than 1,000 years since the devil ape and the others entered the void. They tried their best to find more opportunities and find things that were useful to them. They were preparing to enter the immortal spell world. The woman in the black tower was already anxious. Zichen was still waiting. He was very patient. Do you know how many years have passed? Has the crisis of the immortal spell world been resolved? You only care about the myriad spirit realm. Have you ever thought about the immortal spell realm? Perhaps they are already in imminent danger, and are waiting for you to break through the heavens and enter to provide assistance. Zichen brought along the black tower, and a woman's voice sounded from within the black tower. She lost her patience and deliberately interfered with Zichen, preventing him from enjoying the scenery with Su Mengyao, sightseeing. Zichen had no reaction to this. He wasn't sure about the situation in the immortal spell world, but regardless of the situation in the immortal spell world, the 10,000 spirit world couldn't afford to fall into chaos again. If they were going to fight in the sky, they had to be fully prepared. Otherwise, they would really be wiped out. Time. Right now, Zichen didn't lack this at all. There was no lack of time in the entire myriad spirit realm. Therefore, as long as he was patient enough, Zichen could wait until the myriad spirit realm had countless 9 forces realm cultivators before entering the immortal technique world. Even if these people did not go to the immortal spells world for the time being, as long as there were enough experts, they could stop the extra-legal spirit demons from coming back. After all, once Zichen left, there would be no absolute battle power, and it would not be so serious to deal with the extra-legal spirit demons. In the blink of an eye, another 1,000 years had passed. There were already enough 9 forces realm cultivators in the shattering spell world. It was time to open the passageway. After 1,000 years of urging by the woman, Zichen finally returned to the depths of shattering spell world and came to the dilapidated passageway. Jihong, Su Mengyao, and the people of the Killing Souls tribe and the Annihilating Shadow tribe were also here. Besides them, the demonic ape, the monk, Meow Meow, the 8 heads, and the others had also received the news and returned. There were also the 2 old men, Black and White, and some of the guardians who should have returned to the immortal spell world long ago. They looked at the passageway in front of them with a hint of anticipation in their eyes. The immortal spell world was about to open. Zichen looked around and said, "Everyone, we still don't know what the situation is in the immortal spell world, so when the passageway opens, I will go and take a look first." No one had any objections. Zichen finally took out the black tower. The woman in the black tower had been waiting impatiently for a long time. Just as Zichen took out the black tower, she took the initiative to appear, then mobilized her magic power and began to control the black tower. She was the key to opening the passageway. The black tower trembled and flew toward the abandoned passageway in front of them. Then, with the black tower as the foundation, it forcefully connected to the passageway. Hum! Strong light shone in all directions, and the passageway under the black tower was activated. It was tightly connected to the black tower, and became a whole. A strong light flew out from the top of the tower, and then went straight to the sky. The light beam pierced through the sky. The passageway to the immortal spell world that had been sealed for countless years was now open. Of course, no one knew that as early as 1,000 years ago, someone had opened another passageway and entered the immortal spell world. Zichen had lost his connection with the Black Tower, and now the Black Tower had become a passageway. The passageway was shining, and it had successfully connected to the immortal spell world. Everyone's expression became incomparably excited. However, they also became very anxious. Zichen took a deep breath and swept his gaze across the crowd. Everyone nodded in agreement. "Wait for me to come back!" Zichen stepped into the passageway. With a flash of light, Zichen disappeared. The surroundings were filled with exclamations, and the monitors were filled with emotions. After so many years, the immortal spell world was finally connected. At this moment, the woman who opened the passageway suddenly stepped forward, ignoring everyone's dissuasion, and stepped into the passageway. She actually wanted to forcefully enter the immortal spell world. Meow Meow glanced at the woman with a complicated expression. Hum! The light trembled. The woman's figure disappeared. However, in the next moment, another powerful force surged out. The woman was shocked out of the passageway. Everyone's expression changed, not knowing what had happened. Meow Meow stepped forward and helped her up. There was a trace of blood at the corner of the woman's mouth. She looked at the passageway in front of her and muttered, "I should have gone in, I should have been the first to go in." The woman was in a daze and regretted it. She couldn't enter the passageway now. As for why, she didn't know. The others were puzzled, but none of them tried. Compared to this woman, they were more willing to believe in Zichen. They were even a little worried that this woman's sudden shock would affect Zichen. Zichen arrived at the immortal spell world. In his imagination, this place must be filled with immortal energy, like a painting. Even after the baptism of war and fire, the immortal power and spiritual power that filled it was definitely much stronger than the 10,000 spirit realm. The two old men, Black and White, had also mentioned some things about the immortal spell world. It was not an exaggeration to call this place a paradise. Zichen had arrived. He had finally seen the legendary immortal spell realm. However, what he saw was not a paradise. Instead, it was a ruin. Chapter 5200. What appeared in Zichen's eyes was not a fairyland, but a wasteland. The world was a scene of devastation. As far as his eyes could see, bones stood tall, and the cold wind was biting cold. There were no signs of life here. This was too different from what he imagined, with cranes flying in the sky, immortal herbs everywhere, and celestial horses circling around. Could it be that I've come to a battlefield? Zichen looked further into the distance. It seemed that the whole world was the same. He walked forward with doubts in his heart. Could it be that he was too late, and this world had fallen in the war? But he should have seen some life. In fact, there was nothing here. Zichen continued to walk forward. The bones around him were left behind by some huge beast after it died in battle. Who knew how many years had passed, but they still existed. Zichen picked up a bone from the side. The bone staff he got back then was a bone weapon. As soon as he picked it up, the bone weathered in his hand. Then, with a light kick, a tall skeleton turned into ashes. Zichen shook his head. This was indeed an ancient battlefield, and there were no signs of life at all. After a quarter of an hour, Zichen found an important problem. There was no spiritual power in this world. The whole world was dead silent. This discovery made Zichen completely stunned. If there was no energy in this world, how could one recover power once it was consumed? No matter where, the energy of heaven and earth was the foundation of a cultivator. If there was no energy to recover in this world, wouldn't that mean one had to slowly wait for death? Just like when Zichen first entered the Lawbreaker realm, if it wasn't for the extreme energy given by the old man, he wouldn't have been able to survive at all. Could it be that this place was the same as the Lawbreaker realm? If one wanted to survive, they had to rely on external objects? But looking around, it was a ruin. There were no galaxies or Lawbreaker beasts, so it was impossible to get energy even if one wanted to. Right at this time, Zichen suddenly saw a bright light, flashing one after another. He immediately went forward. After coming to this world, this was the first time he saw something other than loneliness. However, before he could get close to the light, the ground suddenly shook. Something jumped out from the ground and rushed toward the light. His speed was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived at the location of the light. He grabbed the light and laughed. Then, he turned to look at Zichen, turned around, and ran away. "Hey, wait!" Zichen shouted. It would have been better if he hadn't shouted. Once he did, the other party's speed became even faster. In the blink of an eye, he was already several hundred feet away. Then, he drilled back into the ground. By the time Zichen arrived, there was only a very small hole in the ground. A normal person would not be able to get in at all. He really didn't know how that person got in. "Hello, may I ask, where is this place?" Zichen shouted into the small hole. His voice was transmitted into the hole. There was no response. "Did he leave?" Zichen stood up and looked into the distance. At this moment, his face was filled with confusion. What exactly was that light from before? Why did that person run? Zichen tried to extract energy from this world, but there was no energy to speak of. Once he consumed too much energy, how would he recover? This was Zichen's biggest worry at the moment. At the same time, it might also be the greatest danger in this world. If he couldn't count on this world, then what about relying on himself? Zichen took out a piece of black stone from his spirit ring. This was a high-quality soul stone, which contained extraordinary power. Back then, when Zichen hadn't reached the Nine Forces state, he had refined this thing. As soon as the black stone was in his hand, a strange power fell on the black stone. In the next moment, the black stone was broken down layer by layer. A ray of light appeared. It was extremely bright. Zichen looked at the light in his hand, and his eyes lit up. Because this was a ray of power, and it was a very pure ray of power. He couldn't help but think that the light he saw before was also a light of power. Swoosh! A streak of light suddenly broke out of the ground from the side, charging straight at Zichen. Zichen had been on guard. As he reached out his hand, the light spot disappeared. He took a few steps back and dodged the sneak attack of the light shadow. The light shadow wasn't sneak attacking, but was after the light. After the attack missed, the light shadow drilled back into the ground. This time, Zichen saw clearly that the light shadow had used some kind of spell to shrink its body and drill into this small hole. "Excuse me, where is this place?" Zichen looked at the hole and asked again. There was still no response from inside. Seeing this, Zichen took out the light again. "Tell me where this is, and I'll give it to you." There was still no response from the hole. Zichen said again, "I'm a man of my word. Tell me where this is, and I'll give it to you. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'll believe you?" At this moment, a voice came from the hole. This voice was a little young, and it was a girl's voice. Obviously, it wasn't the person from before. Zichen was a little surprised. "Then what do you want?" "Of course, give it to me first, and I'll tell you," the voice said again. Zichen felt that this made sense, and immediately threw the light spot into the hole. "All right, can you tell me where this place is now? I didn't expect there to be such a brainless fool in this wasteland." The voice came from the hole. "Are you from the Pure Land? Pure Land? Wasteland?" Zichen heard two very important pieces of information, and immediately asked, "Can you tell me in detail? Talking consumes energy." The voice sounded again. "Seeing that you're a fool, I'll give you a piece of advice. Before the ancestor beast appears, quickly find a hole to hide in. This way, not only can you save your life, but you can also reduce energy consumption. An image appeared in Zichen's mind. It was the scene when he first entered the Lawbreaker world and encountered the Lawbreaker beast. And now the words, "save your life," and "reduce energy consumption," made him think that perhaps this place was the same as the Lawbreaker world. Back then, the last place Gushan went was the Lawbreaker world. And then from there, he returned to the Immortal Spell world. Could it be that the two were connected? Zichen planned to go back and tell everyone what he found. This place was currently revealing something strange, so he didn't recommend that everyone come here first. As soon as he turned around, he saw a beast appear in the distance. It was a strange beast completely composed of bones. There was not a trace of flesh and blood on its body. Only in its head there was a flickering soul fire. Zichen had already seen this kind of creature when he was in the Zhanwu continent. It had a sharp mouth and was constantly searching for something underground. Suddenly it seemed to have found its target, and immediately exerted force to burrow into the ground. A moment later, it came out of the ground with a person in its mouth. "Save me, save me!" The other party was shouting loudly, extremely terrified. It was the person who had obtained the light spot and laughed. The bone beast that returned to the ground swallowed the other party in a few mouthfuls. Shrill screams continued to ring out. Zichen stood there in a daze. The bone beast also knew how to eat. Would it fall out of its abdomen as soon as it swallowed it? Sure enough, Zichen's guess came true. The human that the bone beast had just swallowed immediately fell out of its abdomen. Because it didn't have a physical body, its body couldn't store anything at all. But in the next moment, Zichen's expression suddenly changed. Because what fell out wasn't a human. It was a bone. Chapter 5201. This scene completely stunned Zichen. He had never seen such a scene. A person's flesh and blood actually disappeared after being swallowed. He stood there, motionless. He looked a little silly. The skeleton beast turned its head and saw him. The soul fire in its mind began to flicker violently. It charged forward in a rampage, shattering many large bones in its path. This was the first time Zichen had encountered a strange creature. He didn't know how strong the creatures of this world were. He took a step forward, and his body lit up. The skeleton beast suddenly exerted its strength and pounced towards Zichen. A powerful aura came head-on. Zichen punched out. Bang! The skeleton beast was sent flying by the powerful shockwave. It rolled a few times on the ground and seemed to have sensed Zichen's strength. It turned around and ran. Zichen also left. He wanted to inform the people below of his recent discovery. But soon, he realized that he didn't find the way back. This made his expression change. Did the passageway disappear? He spread out his soul power to investigate the surroundings, but he didn't find anything. This made Zichen's mood immediately turn bad. There was something strange going on here. He wanted to send the news back. After calming down, Zichen discovered a problem. That woman didn't appear. According to her personality, she would definitely come up. She had wanted to come to the Immortal Spell world for a long time. Back then, in order to force him, she said a lot of unpleasant words. But she didn't appear. There were only two possibilities. One was that the teleportation was random, so the two sides were not in the same place. The other was that there was a problem with the teleportation channel and she couldn't come up. If it was the former, it would be very troublesome. It meant that it was a one-way teleportation. One could only come up and not go down. But if it was the latter, there was still some hope. Zichen turned his head again and saw another person beside him. This was a petite figure. It should be the person who took away his spiritual light. "What do you mean by wasteland and pure land?" Zichen asked again. He wanted to know the current situation. "You don't even know this. Are you from the divine spirit world?" The other party was very curious. Her voice was young. She had long hair, but it covered her face, making it impossible to see what she looked like. "Divine world?" Zichen was taken aback. Isn't this the Immortal Spells world? Immortal Spell world? The girl was stunned. This is the Wasteland. Zichen was sure that this was the Immortal Techniques world. This was because the passageway led to the Immortal Dao realm. As for the name of the Wasteland, Zichen guessed that it might have something to do with the name of the place. He decided not to guess where the Divine Spirit world was for the time being. He asked again, "What's in the Wasteland?" The girl pointed at the skeletons around her. "There are these things. If we're lucky, we might be able to dig out a light of law from it." Looking at Zichen's puzzled expression, the girl said, "It's the light from before." Zichen nodded. It seemed like it was the same as the light of the sorcerer world. "Are there only these things in the Wasteland?" The girl nodded. "Other than the battlefield ruins, there are also the ancestral beasts. You've already seen them." Zichen asked again, "What about the Pure Land?" "Pure Land." The girl's eyes shone with anticipation. "When the immortals die, the Pure Land is born. It's said that every immortal's death will give birth to a Pure Land. In the Pure Land, you don't have to worry about being found by the ancestral beasts, nor do you have to worry about dying without the power of law. That's an immortal realm, a true immortal realm." Zichen did not know what was in the Pure Land, but he believed that the Immortal Techniques world he was looking for should be in the Pure Land. "Since the Pure Land is so good, why don't you go? Why stay here?" When Zichen asked this question, the girl turned to look at him as though she was looking at an idiot. "You can only go to the Pure Land with the light of law. Without it, you can't go in at all." The girl pointed at the ruins and said, "This used to be our territory. Now that he's dead, I'll give you half." Hearing the girl's words, Zichen was taken aback. "Do I have to keep hiding underground?" The girl said with disdain. "If you don't have the strength, you can't even go underground." Zichen looked at the hole beside him. It was too small. Even if he had the strength, he could not hide in it. As the number one person in the 10,000 spirits world, he had to hide underground as soon as he came to the Immortal Techniques world. If news of this spread, he would definitely be laughed at. Zichen said, "I want to go to the Pure Land. How do I get there?" The girl glanced at Zichen. "I've talked too much, and used up too much energy. Can you give me a light of law?" Zichen took out another black stone. After it appeared in his hand, he began to disintegrate it. Zichen tried to sense it, but he did not find any trace of the flow of laws. The black stone disappeared, and a light of power appeared in his hand. The girl reflexively flew towards Zichen and took the light of law. After that, she entered the underground. Zichen asked, "Now can you tell me how to go to the Pure Land?" "To go to the Pure Land, you need at least 100 lights of law. Do you have that?" Zichen nodded. He did have this number of black stones. "Then I'll take you to Old Jiao. He has a way to take people to the Pure Land." The girl said, "But Old Jiao wants 10 lights of law as a reward every time." Zichen said, "Take me to Old Jiao, and I'll give you 10 lights of law as a reward too." Now that Zichen had a certain number of black stones, he did not have to worry about the lack of power. "Do you mean what you say?" "I, Zichen, always mean what I say. I can't trust you. Give me power first." Zichen took out 5 black stones and disintegrated them into 5 lights of law. Zichen threw them into the hole. "Why are there only 5? The girl asked again. "When we get there, I'll give you the other 5. Zichen said. "No, I can't trust you." Zichen took out another 5 lights of law and put them into the hole. "Where did you get these black stones?" the girl asked curiously. "I dug them out." "Oh." After that, there was no sound. Zichen said, "Now it's time to lead the way, right?" The girl said, "I've said a lot. Give me another 5 lights of law. This is the last time." Zichen took out another 5 black stones and converted them into power. The girl walked out from the other side. She looked at Zichen. "Come with me." She led the way in front, carefully looking around. Zichen watched her and found that the girl used almost the same amount of strength with each step. She had extremely precise control of her own power. Even if it was just a simple walk, she would not take an extra step. What's your realm now? Zichen suddenly asked. What's realm? The girl asked back. It's the level of power. Zichen's fist lit up. That's it. Chapter 5202. Dizziness, discomfort, barely managed to write 2 new chapters. Stopping for a day, tomorrow it will be better to update. Thunder Marshal will not be updated today. It is currently in your hands, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5203. Zichen looked at the girl in confusion. He clearly had the power now, so why would it be gone so quickly? After walking for a while, Zichen seemed to understand. His power had been consumed, but there was nothing to replenish it. In this way, when his power was exhausted, wouldn't it be gone? Next, he asked the girl a few more questions, and even asked if she had heard of the name Gushan. The girl kept saying no, or didn't know. My parents are dead. They never went to the Pure Land in their lives. Although they always yearned for that place, they never had enough light of law. Speaking of her parents' death, the girl's expression was very calm, without the slightest sadness. How did they die? Zichen asked. They were found and killed by the ancestor beast. The girl said. The ancestor beast is our natural enemy. After that, the two didn't speak, mainly because Zichen didn't speak. The girl never took the initiative to speak. She always answered whatever Zichen asked, perhaps to preserve her power. After walking for about 10 miles, the girl looked around, as if she was looking for something. Zichen didn't ask. After hesitating, the girl immediately took out a ray of power and placed it in her hand. Bang! Someone drilled out of the ground. The girl immediately retreated to Zichen's side, holding the light of law in her hand. I'm looking for Old Zhao. Is he still alive? Why are you looking for Old Zhao? The person who drilled out of the ground drilled back into the ground. I want to go to the Pure Land. I hope he can lead the way. As soon as the girl's voice fell, there was a loud sound around. A total of 5 people appeared, all staring at the girl, their eyes emitting a greedy light. You want to go to the Pure Land? A person in front looked the girl up and down. Not me, it's him. The girl pointed at Zichen next to her. I want to go to the Pure Land. Please lead the way. Zichen also said. That person turned to look at Zichen. To go to the Pure Land, you need 100 light of law. Are you ready? Zichen nodded and said, I'm ready. As soon as these words were spoken, their expressions changed. Then, without hesitation, they charged towards Zichen. The girl let out a scream and immediately drilled into the ground. Zichen took a step forward. The ground shook slightly, and all the bones in the surroundings turned into dust. Zichen punched out. Bang! The first person at the front flew out 300 feet. Then, with a kick, the second person was sent flying. Bang! 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 The last 3 people were also sent flying one after another. After the 5 of them landed, their bodies were not affected. Cold light flickered in their eyes. One of them shouted, Kill him! Zichen's body suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the person who had spoken. He grabbed that person's head and ruthlessly smashed it into the ground. Boom! The earth trembled as a shockwave spread out in all directions. Everywhere it passed, the scattered bones turned into dust and disappeared. A spacious area with a radius of 10 feet appeared. The ground was reddish-brown. That person's body struggled several times before falling down and stopped moving. His body then decomposed. His flesh and blood disappeared, leaving only white bones behind. In the scattered bones, a pure light appeared. It was the light of law. The other 4 people were stunned and looked at this scene in shock. The girl also drilled out of the ground again. Who else can lead the way? Zichen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Whoever leads the way can live. Me! Immediately, One person opened his mouth and spoke very decisively. As for the other three, their reaction was slow. Seeing that the situation was not good, they wanted to hide underground. Buzz! In the field, a wind blew out of thin air. Zichen's body was like a ghost, moving quickly. Bang! 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 3 sounds rang out one after another. 3 people flew high and smashed heavily on the ground. They landed on the ground and became bones. Only the person in front was trembling. Only he survived. The girl was also shocked. She previously saw that the other party was a fool and easy to fool, so she brought him here. She didn't expect him to be so cruel. These few light of law are your reward. Zichen looked at the trembling person. The other party hurriedly nodded, terrified. Zichen said again, Now go and give me the remaining light of law. Huh! The other party was stunned again. Zichen's eyes flickered with a cold light. Go, I'll go right away. The other party drilled into the ground again. A moment later, he took out more than 20 light of law. These light of law were placed in 3 cloth bags. After Zichen opened them, he checked them one by one. During this time, he glanced at the person, but he didn't say anything. Next, the other party led the way. The girl still followed. During this time, she wanted to leave, but Zichen refused, saying that he would let her go when he found Old Zhao. Who is Old Zhao? Zichen asked. Replying to my lord, Old Zhao is a person with great magical power. He has a lot of connections and can lead people to the Pure Land. The other party immediately said. Zichen asked again. You've seen Old Zhao? No, but we've heard of this name. The other party said. In this place, only Old Zhao can lead us to the Pure Land. The girl had heard of Old Zhao from her parents, but had never seen him in person. It seemed like Old Zhao was very famous, but there were probably only a few who had seen him in person. This might have something to do with the fact that these people had never gathered 100 light of law. However, after seeing the methods of the previous few people, Zichen felt that Old Zhao would most likely be the same. In this kind of world, there were probably not many decent businessmen. The sky was getting dark, and they couldn't continue walking. The two glanced at Zichen, and then drilled into the ground. Zichen found a large rock and sat down. He rejected the girl's invitation. The first person in the all-spirits world was hiding underground on his first night in the immortal spells world. If news of this spread, it would be outrageous. Gurshan's original intention was to let his subordinates accumulate strength. They came to this world to help, not to hide. The night here was very similar to the world of Dharma Breaker. The wind was very strong. Sometimes, it would pass through the bones, making a whining sound like ghosts crying. Thinking back to the world of Dharma Breaker and the world of Dharma Breaker now, the difference was too great. Then, would there be changes here as well? Or rather, this was how it was. The Pure Land was the immortal spells world. The immortals died, and the Pure Land was born. What level of existence were the immortals? Zichen was a little lost. He didn't notice that an ancestor beast had appeared behind him. It was also a skeleton, and it slowly approached Zichen. When it was less than 100 feet away from Zichen, it suddenly exerted force and flew towards Zichen. It was a sneak attack from behind. Zichen didn't react. He still sat there, leaning against it. One! At this moment, a cold light flashed and pierced the other party's head. The soul light was instantly extinguished. Its body fell to the ground, turning into a pile of bones. The light flew back. It was the slaughter spirit. Zichen brought it here. Turning around, Zichen saw a bright light. It was the light of law, but its size was much larger than before. With a sweep of his soul power, the light fell into his palm. Feeling it carefully, the power contained in it was about dozens of times greater than before. Zichen held the light of law in his hand and began to refine it. After walking for a day, he had consumed a lot of energy. Chapter 5204. The two people in the cave had an extraordinary perception of the light of law. But previously, what they felt the most was the danger of death. The ancestral beast had always been a natural enemy to them. Their ancestors had been avoiding the ancestral beast for generations. In their knowledge, the ancestral beast was completely invincible. It was said that only the existence of the Pure Land could kill the ancestral beast. There were even rumors that the Pure Land had hunting teams that specifically targeted the ancestral beast. But those were just rumors. They had never seen it. But today, they saw the invincible ancestral beast die. This was a huge impact on them. The night was silent. The next day, the sky brightened. The two drilled out of the ground again and headed forward. The atmosphere was very quiet along the way. Zichen wanted to know more about this world. Unfortunately, the two's knowledge was limited. Until they came to a special place. There were walls and buildings here. Although they were very simple, there was no need to hide underground. These buildings were all built with stones. They were about the height of a person. There was a house in the center. There were other people guarding it. They all had broken weapons in their hands. The arrival of the three was treated as uninvited guests, and was immediately surrounded. "Old Yao, we're looking for Old Yao!" The person who led the way said loudly. Soon Zichen saw Old Yao. This was an old man. He was dressed very delicately, forming a sharp contrast with the sloppy people here. Old Yao looked at Zichen. "You're looking for me?" Because among the three of them, Zichen seemed to be the most extraordinary. Zichen said, "I want to go to the Pure Land." Old Yao smiled. "Do you know the rules?" Zichen took out a cloth bag from his chest. Inside were 10 light of law. Old Yao said, "What's so good about going to the Pure Land? Stay with me and you can at least live." "Why?" the girl suddenly asked. "Can't you live in the Pure Land?" Old Yao said, 100 light of law is just the entry fee. After going to the Pure Land, what will you rely on to live? Without light of law, you will be thrown out sooner or later." Old Yao looked at the girl again. "As for you, you're too young. Other than those with special hobbies, the others won't be interested in you at all. If you want to survive in there, you'll have to try your luck." The girl didn't understand what Old Yao meant. "I'm just leading the way. He's going to the Pure Land." Old Yao looked at Zichen again. "Are you sure?" Zichen tossed the light of 10 spells to Old Yao. Old Yao smiled faintly. "Young man, you are very confident. But do you think that you can make me lead the way for you with just 10 rays of light?" He pointed to the side. "How much light of law do you think is needed to raise these people?" Zichen did not respond to Old Yao. Instead, he looked at the people behind Old Yao. "Do any of you still remember the way?" Everyone was stunned, not understanding what Zichen meant. Zichen pointed at Old Yao. "I'll let whoever can lead the way replace him." The girl took a few steps back. A hint of fear flashed through the eyes of the person leading the way. Old Yao took in the whole scene and laughed. "Little brother, I'm just kidding. Actually, it's better to stay with me than to go to the Pure Land. But if you insist on going, I'm willing to lead the way." Old Yao was indeed a shrewd person. He could sense the danger from the two's reaction. At the same time, he returned the bag to Zichen. "It's fate that we met. The fee for leading the way is waived." Zichen kept the bag. If he could avoid killing, it was better not to. You follow me. The rest of you stay here." Old Yao casually pointed at 2 people and then set off. "Tell me about the Pure Land. What's inside?" After setting off, Zichen began to ask. The other party must know a lot. Old Yao was not displeased by Zichen's attitude. "There are rich people. All of them are rich. Oh no, most of them are rich. They have the best resources and enjoy an extravagant life." What Zichen wanted to ask was obviously not this question. "There's energy of heaven and earth in the Pure Land?" Old Yao glanced at Zichen. There were not many people living in the wasteland who knew about the energy of heaven and earth. Everyone only knew the light of law, which was the foundation of life. "Yes." Old Yao nodded. He felt that this person was extraordinary. Zichen asked again. "Who controls the Pure Land?" For many years, Old Yao had led the way for many people, but no one asked such a question. Everyone was asking how to survive. And the other party asked questions about the big picture. The master of the Pure Land, Old Yao said. Rumor has it that a Pure Land will be born after the death of an immortal, and the first person to discover the Pure Land will become the master of the Pure Land. Along the way, Zichen had seen too many things. Naturally, he did not believe such a rumor. Perhaps the Pure Land was born after the death of an immortal, but the first person to discover the Pure Land might not be the master of the Pure Land. Perhaps a certain condition needed to be met. Zichen asked again. What is the master of the Pure Land's realm? This time, Old Yao took a deep look at Zichen. None of the questions asked by the other party had anything to do with survival. This was not a question that a person who wanted to go to the Pure Land should ask. It was more like an invader who was inquiring about the Pure Land. It was like treating the Pure Land as prey. You're a rebel? Old Yao's expression suddenly changed and he cried out in surprise. The girl and the others did not understand what a rebel was. They had never heard of it. Previously, the girl wanted to leave, but Zichen did not agree. What's a rebel? There was a hint of curiosity in Zichen's eyes. Some existences who rob the Pure Land under the guise of justice. Wherever they go, the Pure Land will be destroyed. Old Yao looked at Zichen from head to toe and found that the other party seemed to know nothing about the rebels. He did not know about the Pure Land, nor did he know about the rebels, but he knew about the energy of heaven and earth and his realm. Could he be from the upper realm? Old Yao muttered in his heart. Let's talk about the realm. You should know. Zichen looked at Old Yao. Old Yao said, most of the people in the Pure Land are of the spiritual realm. It is said that the master of the Pure Land is of the annihilation realm. Zichen knew about the spiritual realm. He was the one at the moment. Could it be that the annihilation realm was the next realm of the spiritual realm? When the sky was about to turn dark, they encountered another stone house. Old Yao pointed at the stone house and said, Tonight we will rest here. Tomorrow afternoon, we will be outside the Pure Land. Zichen nodded and said, You guys go inside. How would they dare to go inside? Everyone, including the girl, drilled into the ground. Only Old Yao walked towards the stone house. During this time, he glanced at Zichen and found that Zichen walked to a large rock and sat on it. With a flip of his hand, a pot of wine appeared in Zichen's hand. He opened the wine pot and drank. Old Yao smelled the smell and walked to the door. Seeing this scene, he was more and more certain that this person's background was extraordinary. Perhaps he came from the upper realm. The night was silent, and they did not encounter any ancestral beasts. The next day, they continued to set off. Chapter 5205. The so-called Pure Land was a world of its own. What Zichen saw was the entrance to a space. There were guards at the door. Although they looked no different from ordinary people, Zichen could sense the aura of energy from them. Just like Old Yao. The reason why he dared to have the idea of snatching yesterday was because he could fight. This was different from the girl and the others. The others were empty. They were like ordinary people in the mortal world, without the slightest energy. It's in front. Old Yao pointed ahead and said, You need 100 light of law to enter. The girl looked ahead curiously. Through the space door, she seemed to be able to see the environment of the Pure Land. She wanted to go in and take a look, but the conditions didn't allow it. Can I go now? She raised her head and looked at Zichen. The other party had refused to let her leave twice, but now that she saw the Pure Land, it could be considered a big regret. At least, it was better than her dead parents. The two always wanted to go outside the Pure Land to take a look, but they couldn't. Follow me. Zichen walked forward. What? The girl was stunned. There was a hint of envy in Old Yao's eyes. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and follow him. Miss, you're in luck. The girl reacted. She couldn't believe it and quickly followed. But with every step forward, she felt her heart beat faster. It felt unreal. I'm going to enter the Pure Land? Old Zhao looked at the two's back and murmured, "Could it be that he likes the younger one?" Then he shook his head. As long as he went inside, he could have any kind of person. Why would he bring a dirty person in from the outside? No matter who it was, they had no privileges here. If they wanted to enter, they had to pay enough light of law. "What's the background of that person?" Old Zhao turned to look at the person who led the way. The other party shook his head. "I don't know," Old Zhao said again. "You seem to be afraid of him? He killed 4 people, and then in one night, he killed an ancestor beast." "What?" Old Yao's face changed. Even an ancestor beast could be killed? This wasn't an ordinary spiritual technique. Now, he was glad that he was able to adapt to the situation. He should have guessed it based on the fact that the other party had sat alone on the big rock for the entire night. When he turned his head again, he saw that Ziqin and the girl were already at the door. Ziqin took out 2 cloth bags and handed them to the guard. The girl turned around to look at them. She was clearly shocked and could not believe that this was real. The next moment, the 2 of them disappeared through the door. The others were very envious, but they could only watch. "What's your name?" "Little Bamboo." "Bamboo as in bamboo?" "Yes, Mother said that there is a plant in this world called bamboo. It is full of tenacity and has a strong vitality. She hopes that I can live well like bamboo." This was the first time Ziqin had heard the girl's name. This was also the first time the girl had seen the Pure Land. The girl's parents only hoped that she could live well. They never expected that she would come to the Pure Land. The Pure Land was actually green, and even the air was fragrant and sweet. A pleasant aura drifted all around. Ziqin sensed the energy of heaven and earth, but it was different from what he had imagined. The density of spiritual energy in this place could not even be compared to the Spellbreaker world. Was this really a higher-level immortal world? Ziqin could not help but have doubts in his heart. "TSK, here comes another beggar. Seriously, it's so smelly." Wherever the 2 of them passed, passers-by would cover their noses and look at Little Bamboo with disdain. The original Little Bamboo used her hair to cover her face. Not sure if it was because she was excited, but her face was revealed. It was a dirty face. A pair of big eyes were filled with curiosity at everything around them. She heard those voices, but her expression did not change. "Not angry?" Ziqin asked. She shook her head. "This place is good. Compared to them, I am indeed dirty. They are right." Little Bamboo's tone was calm but serious. It was obvious that she did not care at all. She took a deep breath, as if she wanted to suck in all the energy in the world into her lungs. "Wow, as expected of the Pure Land," Little Bamboo shouted excitedly. "I feel that there is no need to eat the light of magic here. Just eating air is enough to survive." Ziqin did not know how to respond, so he remained silent. "I have decided. I will stay here and not leave." Little Bamboo was very excited. "From now on, I will eat air here." As she spoke, she took out a cloth bag from her bosom. "For you!" Ziqin looked at the cloth bag. "What?" "I have a total of 39 light of magic. Consider it my thanks to you," Little Bamboo said. "Anyway, I will not go out from now on. I can eat my fill by eating air here. There is no need for these things." For a moment, Ziqin was speechless. His journey here could be considered difficult, but he had not reached the point where he had to eat air to survive. "Right, why did you bring me here?" Little Bamboo suddenly asked. Ziqin said, "Because if I did not bring you here, you will die." "Die?" Little Bamboo was stunned at first, then she reacted. She would indeed die. In the wasteland, a person's death was nothing. Ziqin said again. "But I am not sure if bringing you here is helping or harming you." "What do you mean?" Little Bamboo did not understand. Ziqin said, "If you can eat your fill by eating air here, do you think Old Zhao will say that it is difficult to live here?" Little Bamboo's expression changed immediately. She was not stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart and understood Ziqin's meaning. Actually, it was an insignificant life. Zichen could pretend that he did not know. After all, he had already paid Little Bamboo. Her life and death had nothing to do with him. But he could not get past the hurdle in his heart. They continued to walk deeper. This place was like a small city, but the buildings were too close together. Among them, Zichen saw the most women. They were all dressed up beautifully and threw flirtatious glances at the passers-by. Little Bamboo looked at them, and seemed to have thought of something. Her face gradually turned pale. Zichen walked into an inn and asked, "What is the price for a night?" The waiter immediately went forward and smiled apologetically. "Sir, 2 light of magic." Xiao Zhu was shocked that he actually needed 2 light of law in one night. 2 rooms. Zichen took out 4 light of magic. "No, 1 room. I will sleep on the floor." Little Bamboo quickly stopped him. This was too scary. In one night, he actually needed 2 rays of light of law. In the past, she could not even use up 2 light of magic in 2 months. The waiter glanced at Zichen and then at Little Bamboo. He smiled and said, "The room is not small. It can accommodate 2 people." "Okay." Zichen withdrew 1 light of magic and gave the waiter 3. The waiter was stunned. Zichen said, "Let me ask you a few questions." The waiter's face was full of smiles again. "Sir, ask away. I will definitely tell you everything I know." You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.